Hey, everyone! This store discriminates against the poor.
Howdy! Welcome to the Mass Effect Iceberg. This iceberg was created by Penguin of Doom 3 on Reddit. Some points have been combined for continuity, and some additional points have been added. This video will contain spoilers for the original trilogy, comics, and some books. You have been warned. Level 1. The Sky. 1. Cerberus. Often portrayed as an antagonistic organization to Shepard's goals, Cerberus is a human survivalist paramilitary group led by the Elusive Man. Generally speaking, Cerberus believes that advancing humanity through illegal or dangerous experimentation, terrorist activities, sabotage and assassination, and other avenues are all justified. As a result, it has been labeled as a terrorist organization by the Systems Alliance and the Citadel Council. One of many assassinations carried out by Cerberus was the assassination of Pope Clement XVI, with his own rosary beads which were coated with toxic materials. Of course, the next pope, Leo XIV, had eschatological beliefs more in line with Cerberus's goal of militarizing humanity. 2. Protheans are collectors. The collectors are a race of completely subservient beings that the Reapers control, and, as their physiology suggests, were once members of the Prothean race. When comparing them to Javik, the similarities are striking. The crested head, the placement of their 4 eyes, and overall bodily structure is fairly comparable. That being said, it is clear that the collectors have gone through some form of, quote, extensive genetic rewrite, end quote, as stated by Shepard after seeing their DNA. Mordin determines that the Reapers indoctrinated the Protheans and added cybernetic modifications to them due to the sheer length of their indoctrination and bodily limitations. It is further noted that, quote, each collector drone being little more than a clone, it's unknown if they even still possess any form of gender, riddled with cybernetics, lacking glands or digestive system, and having any form of intelligence or self-awareness completely eradicated by indoctrination. What has been done to these former Protheans is irreversible down to the genetic level, and as it is revealed, they were utilized against their former Prothean brethren in the final stages of the Reaper's harvest of the Protheans. 3. Reapers. Reapers are, essentially, an advanced machine race of synthetic organic starships, with many noting a resemblance to a squid or cuttlefish. They normally reside in dark space, the incredibly vast, starless nothingness between galaxies, wherein they remain dormant for an estimated 50,000 years at a time before returning to the galaxy to resume their harvest. Specifically, they harvest the galaxy's advanced, spacefaring sentient life. On Thessia, Vendetta explains that the patterns concerning the development of galactic civilization and the cycles of extinction are too regular and repetitive to be coincidence, and thus infers that the Reapers are servants to this pattern and not its creators, which is ultimately proven to be correct when Shepard meets the Catalyst, the creator and impetus behind the Reapers and harvests. 4. Harvesting. During their invasion at the end of each cycle, the Reapers gather and process vast numbers of individuals from each of the galaxy's sentient spacefaring races. Victims who cooperate with or are captured by Reaper husks are rounded up into camps, where the husks select individuals deemed fit for processing. It is believed that the husks use scent or chemical receptors to analyze the genetic composition of victims. Those who are deemed unsuitable are turned into more husks. Individuals who are determined to be suitable for processing are loaded onto Reaper processors, where they are ushered into a single-person pod. Like a slaughterhouse, the interior of the processor is designed to prevent any visual or auditory contact between individuals being processed. Once in the pods, Reaper nanites dissolve the victims into a raw genetic paste for ease of transport. This paste will then be used in the construction of a newborn Reaper, with the victims' minds being preserved to form the Reaper's gestalt consciousness. The only known facilities used for Reaper construction are located on the Citadel and within the Collector base in the galactic core. Available information suggests that a single race is harvested during each cycle to produce Reaper capital ships. It appears that other spacefaring races harvested during this same cycle are used to produce Destroyer-class Reapers. Exactly how or why this distinction is made is unknown. Thus, a single Reaper is the culmination of not just thousands, but millions or billions of lives. Given how many Reapers we see, how many species have been wiped out, and how long have they ruled the galaxy, allowing civilizations to ripen for slaughter. 5. The Council Races. While humans may be added by the end of Mass Effect 1, the Council races of Mass Effect were comprised of the Asari, Salarians, and Turians. The Asari, with their impressive 1,000-year lifespans, were the first to discover the Citadel, and it was they who proposed the Citadel Council to the Salarians upon their arrival after them. They are known in the Council for their diplomacy and leadership. The Salarians, known for their research and technological prowess, were responsible for advancing the primitive Krogan race to be used against the Rachni. They were also responsible for the brutal genophage that afflicted Krogan fertility. They are known most for their military intelligence and scientific contributions. Finally, the Turians, who were invited to join the Council about 1,200 years prior to the first game, fulfill the role of the Council as the main military or galactic peacekeepers, owed in part to their unmatched fleets. 6. Krogans and Genophage. Krogans are a bipedal reptilian species native to the planet Tuchanka. With the harsh environment, flora, and fauna of their homeworld, their species have adapted to be equally as violent and harsh. In order to survive such harsh conditions, Krogan developed redundant bodily organs and systems, including but not limited to having 2 hearts, 4 lungs, and 4 testicles. They have been demonstrated to live for hundreds if not over 1,000 years, such as in the case of Warlord Okir. As Krogan society became more technologically advanced, so did their weaponry. The end result is that they destroyed their homeworld in a nuclear war that reduced their race into primitive, warring tribes. With the help of the Salarians, the Krogan were uplifted into galactic society, and lent their numbers and military prowess to bring an end to the Rachni Wars. However, after the Rachni were eradicated, the rapidly expanding Krogan became a threat to the galaxy in turn, starting the Krogan rebellions and forcing the Turians to unleash the genophage. This genetic infection dramatically reduced fertility in Krogan females, causing a severe drop in births secondary to prenatal and postnatal death, with only 1 in every 1,000 births producing live offspring. 7. First Contact War. The First Contact War, referred to as the Relay 314 incident by most Turians, was a 3-month conflict between the Human Systems Alliance and the Turians. Thanks to the discovery of the Karen Relay and the Mass Relay Network in 2149, humans began a rapid expansion, activating every mass relay they came across. It wasn't until 2157 that the Turians noticed these occurrences when they found human explorers reactivating an inactive mass relay known as Relay 314. The reactivation of this relay was forbidden by Citadel regulations following the Rachni War, and the Turians immediately responded by opening fire, rather than negotiating or otherwise interacting with the human explorers. However, a human vessel managed to retreat, warning the Human Alliance, who sent a retaliatory force to destroy the Turian vessels. This escalated into a war that was halted by the Citadel Council, who intervened to negotiate a peace, with the end of the war being known as Armistice Day. Despite the Turians being the initial aggressors, humanity was generally coupled with a poor reputation as being aggressors themselves. 8. Starchild. The Star Child is the catalyst, or the intelligence created by the Leviathans, with its latest form or projection taking the visage of the child that Shepard saw killed. It reveals the nature of the Reapers and poses the choice of the galaxy's fate to Shepard. It serves as the architect and overseer of the Reapers and their cycles, and was programmed to ensure the continued existence of life in the galaxy through any means necessary. According to the Catalyst Crucible theory, in previous cycles, the Reapers believed that cooperation between organics and synthetics was impossible at the time. However, in Commander Shepard's cycle, Shepard was able to unite organics and synthetics together under one banner against a common enemy, the Reapers. Shepard was finally able to destroy the Reapers because, for once, the galaxy had passed the test and worked towards a peaceful future together, which is why the Star Child speaks to him and allows him, a leader of this movement, a choice. Another reasoning for this theory is that the Reapers made no attempts to stop the Crucible's construction or destroy it. 9. The Elusive Man. Originally known as Jack Harper, the Elusive Man was a mercenary that would come to form Cerberus after the First Contact War in 2157 CE, after foiling a Turian general's plot to use an alien artifact to transform Turians into a race of invincible super soldiers under his command with the aid of Saren Arterius. 10. Vermeer. After receiving word that a Solarian reconnaissance team had word about Saren, Shepard and his crew raced to the planet. Vermeer's codex entry reads, "Vermeer is a lush world located on the frontier of the Attican Traverse. Its vast seas and orbital position on the inner life zone had created a wide equatorial band of humid, tropical terrain. Only the political instability of the region has impeded efforts at colonization. As a result, Shepard's team is mostly on its own, save for the Solarian team already stationed there, as they are then expected to cut through the Geth about the area. It is discovered that Saren has found a cure to the genophage and is breeding an army of Krogan. The Solarians' captain, Kirahe, plans to destroy the cure, much to the fury of Rex, whose people now mostly give birth to stillborn children as their numbers continue to dwindle. Either killing Rex or swaying him to your side is necessary before destroying the base. Additionally, Shepard will have to decide whether to save Kaidan or Ashley during the assault on Saren's base, as Geth are swarming their respective bomb sites. 11. Stargazer. A child found alongside the entity known as the Stargazer is asking about the story of the Shepherd. If the Crucible is activated, a male Stargazer is seen finishing the tale of the Shepherd to a child. He states that it happened long ago, and that many of the details have been lost in time. If the Crucible is not activated and the Reapers continue their cycle, a female Stargazer of an unknown species is seen finishing the tale of the Shepherd. She explains that they know about the Shepherd's actions and the war through the archives of Liara T'Soni left behind. The information the archives contained save the contemporary generation from the threat and are the reason why they are at peace. Some fans speculate that, regardless of the ending chosen, the child is told the story of the Shepherd, the arguable saver whose deeds or journey is passed down, albeit, like much of history, the details and particulars have been lost over time. As previously mentioned, the Stargazer recounts parts of what Shepard accomplished to a child. However, early in storyboarding, the Stargazer seen in the final product featured a companion and child that are distinctly identified as an Asari mother-daughter pair, but with circuitry patterns. The same circuitry patterns could be seen from the dandelion-like objects floating on a hill the pair are sitting on, in contrast to the snowy forest in the final game. Some have taken this to suggest that the idea of a true synthesis of machine and organic life has been achieved through all facets of the universe, but was ultimately scrapped in this form. Additionally, as a fun bit of trivia, Buzz Aldrin, an astronaut that made 3 spacewalks in 1966 and landed alongside Neil Armstrong on the moon, voices the male Stargazer. 12. Saren. A major antagonist in the first game, Saren Arterius was a specter of the Citadel Council who used his power and insight to aid the Reapers. As a specter, Saren had resources, reach, and influence when reporting to the Council, and the freedom to move about as he wished. Saren's indoctrination by the Reaper Sovereign, which made him believe in the Reaper's purpose, followed the pattern of Reaper indoctrination of high-ranking individuals in order to infiltrate sentient races' governments and bring them down from within. He endeavors over the course of the story to retrieve the conduit, which he believes will bring back the Reapers. He attempts to revive the Rachni, breed the Krogan, and ultimately do the Reapers' bidding in order to make their takeover easier. He is ultimately convinced of his ill deeds, thanking Shepard for it, before he ends himself with a bullet to the head to prevent himself from opening the Citadel relay for the Reapers. However, Sovereign reanimates Saren's body. Through its destruction, the signal linking it to Sovereign causes the Reaper to temporarily lose control of its shields, allowing the Alliance fleet to destroy it. 13. Husks. The aptly named husks are synthetic, organic, zombie-like creatures created from organic beings. An organic being, such as a human, is impaled on huge spikes, nicknamed dragon's teeth, that, over time, cause the body's organs, skin, and water content to be converted into cybernetic materials. Blood is changed to a sickly green fluid, and the body generates an electrical charge. When one approaches these spikes, the husks are released, sent after the interlopers to kill or add them to their ranks. 14. Geth. The Geth are sentient artificial intelligences created by the Quarians. Initially, they were merely intelligent robotic beings without sentience or wills of their own, created as laborers and warriors for their Quarian masters. However, when the Geth became sentient and began to question their masters, the horrified Quarians attempted to exterminate them. The Geth won the resulting war and reduced the Quarians to a race of nomads. Geth communicate through a neural network, sharing their processing power and sharing sensory data. An individual Geth has only a basic intelligence on par with animal instincts, but in groups they can reason, analyze situations, and make tactical decisions as well as any of the organic races. However, Legion, a Geth companion, appears to be specifically designed to be autonomous and is not linked up to the other Geth, possessing, quote, over 11 times as many Geth programs as a standard Geth platform and can function intellectually on its own. The emergence of this sentient AI has served as a warning to other species, particularly to ensure that such sentient AI does not revolt once more. 15. The Elevator. A running joke from the original games was the incredibly slow speed of the elevator in the Citadel. In the meta sense, the long times were the result of a more interactive loading screen while also further establishing companion dialogue and background. In universe, however, the fact that a hyper-advanced space station with spacefaring races were beholden to a slow-as-molasses elevator system is preposterous. Some believe that, perhaps, the function and inner workings of the elevator systems, despite attempts to fix them, were continually refixed by the Keepers, or their mechanisms were so finely attuned with the rest of the Citadel that they were unable to be overridden. 16. Pre-human galaxy. There are various interpretations to what a pre-human galaxy may imply. First, the solar system we are acquainted with may have once been home to various other spacefaring species, but they were summarily wiped out by the Reapers. Perhaps other planets house them, or even Earth itself, the ruins destroyed after eons of Reaper harvests. Secondly, could this reference a pre-spacefaring human galaxy? Humanity had only advanced to the point of joining the Citadel and other advanced spacefaring races less than 50 years before the Reaper's return. Had they waited or not discovered the mass relays, it stands to reason they would have been considered too underdeveloped to harvest. thus resulting in their continuation and progression for another 50,000 years, perhaps making them the first to discover the Citadel in this cycle, not the Asari, and being the subsequent leaders of this new, empty galaxy. As Sovereign says, "You exist because we allow it. You will end because we demand it." Thus, they would have been allowed to continue existing, with their emergence as an advanced spacefaring race leading to the demand for their assimilation. 17. Exile of Batarians and Quarians. Both Batarians and Quarians are often looked down upon and seen in a negative light by members of Citadel space. Quarians are shunned to a degree due to their creation of the Geth and the threat they pose, leading to their isolation on their flotillas and the distrust and animosity shown to them when they venture into Citadel space or interact with other races, generally on their pilgrimages. Batarians have a more actively antagonistic approach to other races. In the early 2160s, humans began to colonize the Skylian Verge, a region the Batarians were already actively settling. The Batarians asked the Citadel Council to intervene and declare the Verge an area of Batarian interest. When the Council refused, the Batarians closed their Citadel embassy and severed diplomatic and economic relations, becoming an inward-looking rogue state. As a result, many Batarians run smuggling, slavery, and drug rings, and have actively participated in terroristic attacks on human and other species colonies for their own interests. Level 2. The Tip. 18. Shadow Broker Files. The Shadow Broker is an enigmatic figure at the head of an expansive organization which trades in information, always selling to the highest bidder. All secrets that are bought and sold never allow one customer of the broker to gain a significant advantage, forcing the customers to continue trading information to avoid becoming disadvantaged, allowing the broker to remain in business. He is revealed in the DLC to be a Yogg, a pre-spaceflight race native to Apernak, which Liara surmises means that he usurped the former Shadow Broker. This is later confirmed to be true, as the Yogg, known once as the operative Kelchu, had been in command for the past 6 decades, and now Liara usurps him to become the new one. How could a pre-spacefaring being take over so seamlessly? The Yogg were known to possess technology equivalent to 20th century human tech, but as this Yogg was studied, it demonstrated impressive displays of intelligence and learning, on par with the much shorter-lived Solarians, some of the premier minds in the galaxy. As the Shadow Broker studied this Yogg, it was studying him. Still, without integrating or advancing as a member of the Council races, the Yogg were ultimately passed over by the Reapers, and are speculated to be leading species in the next cycle. The Shadow Broker's files demonstrate that he was aware of the Reapers, the Collectors, and their plans. He sold information on Thane's identity, leading to his wife's death. Additionally, the data file Tally has proving Saren Arterius had gone rogue was acquired from the Shadow Broker, and many more. He did not share the information concerning the Reapers or Saren with the Citadel, or attempt to band others together to combat this threat, but instead sought to try and aid them and protect himself before they came. 19. Harbinger and Sovereign. Harbinger and Sovereign are 2 named Reapers encountered throughout the games. Sovereign was the first, perhaps acting as a scout and paving the way for the other Reapers to emerge from their hibernation and return through the Citadel's relay. According to Legion, Sovereign was the name given by Saren, with its actual name being Nazara, as it was known to the Geth. Regardless, it addressed itself as Sovereign to those who knew it as such. A sovereign can be defined as a supreme ruler, especially a monarch, which is exemplified by its dominion and superiority over other non-Reaper races, as it ruled over the Geth subsect, Saren, and its other followers. By gaining more allies for the coming harvest, it was essentially acting as a sovereign, calling forth its followers, armies, or subjects to fight as its conscripts in the coming war. As such, it was preordained as being the rightful sovereign that they should submit to. If it was so named by Saren, not by itself, then this could be his projections of it. On the other hand, the name Nazara can be found as a Quranic name and in some other cultures, generally meaning bloom, beauty, or brilliance. As for it divulging this name to the Geth, perhaps it was meant to embody the blooming or brilliance of itself as the perfect melding of what the Geth could be and what they could blossom or develop into. Perhaps as other species fail to understand the Geth, the consolidation of so many AI or conscious minds, as seen in the Geth and Reapers, is a thing of beauty or brilliance. However, in Old Turkish, Nazara means the one who sees, observes. And this is just what he does, monitoring organic civilization for the time in which it must be cultivated and prepared for its reaping. In Mass Effect 2 and 3, Harbinger serves as the main Reaper antagonist and is responsible for the Collector's movements. After Shepard activates the project to delay the Reaper's arrival, assuming the Collectors have been defeated, Harbinger will appear as a hologram to chastise Shepard for his futility in fighting against the Reapers. A Harbinger is a person or thing that announces or signals the approach of another, or is a forerunner of something. As Harbinger begins the active deployment of Collectors and begins initiating events to further the harvest and eradication of advanced sentient life, it is the Harbinger of the harvest or death. Also, as it is the one to tell Shepard of the futility and that the Reapers are still coming, he is literally the Harbinger or spokesperson for the coming invasion. 20. Vorcha. The Vorcha, known for their aggressive and savage behavior, as seen on Omega, are a clear threat, although most of them are regarded simply as pests and scavengers. Their physiology and abilities have allowed them to adapt and thrive, a primitive, violent blight to all species and environments. They have clusters of non-differentiated cells, similar to those found on the planarian worm of Earth. These cells allow the Vorcha limited regenerative abilities, as well as the ability to adapt quickly to its environment. For example, a Vorcha that is cut or burned will adapt to have thicker skin. The lungs of a Vorcha placed in a barely breathable atmosphere will adapt to better use the gases there. A Vorcha subjected to high gravity will quickly develop stronger heart and leg muscles. However, as a result of this adaptation, the Vorcha do not evolve in the same sense that other species do, as their equivalent DNA has remained unchanged for millions of years as they merely adapt as individuals, making evolutionary adaptations unnecessary. Due to their ability to adapt and their fast breeding, their homeworld of Heshtok has long been stripped of natural resources, resulting in never-ending fighting for the scant scraps that remain. 21. Slavery in Mass Effect. In particular, slavery is rampant and a prominent business venture in Batarian society. The Blue Suns group regularly sold slaves, oftentimes to the Collectors, whose fates leave little to the imagination. In one instance, as of 2182, slavery had been fully reintroduced to a human world when corporate influencers and politicians on the world of Anhur effectively abolished the minimum wage. This incident led to the Anhur rebellions, in turn leading to the re-abolishing of slavery on the world. 22. Drell extinction. The Drell ancestors emerged from dry, rocky deserts on the barren world of Rakana. Around the 1380s CE, the already arid Drell homeworld began its swift descent into lifelessness due to disastrous industrial expansion. At the time, the Drell lacked interstellar flight capacity, and with their population bursting at 11 billion, they faced certain extinction. It was around the 1980s CE that the Hanar made first contact with the Drell race. In the following 10 years, the Hanar would transport a total of 375,000 Drell to the Hanar homeworld Kage. The remaining billions left on Rakana would perish on their dying planet, warring against each other for diminishing resources. Of the rescued Drell on the humid, ocean-covered Hanar homeworld of Kage, it was not a perfect transition. The climate proved tolerable only when the Drell stayed inside a climate-controlled dome city. The leading cause of death for Drell on Kage is Keppel syndrome, caused by cumulative long-term exposure to a humid climate. The syndrome erodes the ability of Drell lungs to take in oxygen, and eventually spreads out to other organs. 23. Key 9 getting the name Bolto. Key 9 is a dog mech that was left behind by an engineer working on the overhaul of the Normandy SR-2. In exceedingly rare circumstances, Shepard may refer to Key 9 as Bolto. Where Key 9 is a potential riff off of K9, the term for a K9 unit in a police department, or the K9 robot from the Doctor Who series, Bolto is also unique. As some fans have speculated, it is a riff off of Balto, the Siberian husky that led a dog sled team to Nome, Alaska to deliver diphtheria antitoxins. 24. Conrad Werner. Known to some as Commander Shepard's biggest fan, Conrad Werner can be encountered in Mass Effect 1, where he idolizes Shepard and, depending on how Shepard deals with him, he can be killed or allowed to fanboy for another day. Similar occurrences in about all subsequent games can be followed as well. If Shepard tells him to get lost, Conrad will march off, determined to prove he too can represent humanity, after which he will not be seen again. An elevator announcement later explains his absence. Conrad would go on to pick a fight with a group of Turians and is killed as a result. If Shepard is courteous and agrees to give him an autograph and then a photo, Conrad eventually convinces himself that he can be a hero as well, and asks Shepard to sign him on as a fellow Spectre and member of the squad. Shepard can charm Conrad and convince him to stay at home with his wife, in which case he leaves quietly, thanking the commander for setting him straight. Alternatively, Shepard can intimidate him to show him what it is like to have a gun in your face. Conrad will then renounce Shepard as his hero and leave. In Mass Effect 2, assuming he wasn't killed, he will appear impersonating an Alliance officer and wearing replica N7 armor, claiming that he decided to travel around the galaxy to combat crime, despite having no formal training. Shepard can choose to hit him, fire a grazing shot, or simply ask him why he is impersonating the commander. Whatever the choice, Conrad claims that he is working for an undercover officer who told him that the Eternity Bar is selling red sand, but of course further investigation reveals that he was lied to in order for the officer to obtain the deeds to the bar. Confronting the officer at Gateway Personal Defense allows Shepard to get a discount. Conrad will praise Shepard and thank the commander for returning from the dead, then leave. After that, it is reported on the news that Conrad has formed a charity foundation, Shepard's, for refugees and orphans. However, Conrad will storm off unhappily if Shepard tells him to get lost when first talking to him in the bar. Eventually, a news report will be heard reporting that Conrad had gotten himself killed attempting to capture transient youths hitchhiking a ride on top of a bus. The report carries on detailing that Conrad fell from the bus, struck several passing cars, and eventually fell into the power turbine of a biomass recycling facility. Because of course. If Shepard bothered to interact with Conrad twice before and Conrad didn't die horrifically either time, Shepard can see him again in Mass Effect 3 in the refugee sector of the Citadel in 2186, while investigating sabotage on local medical stations near Avena, where he is actively recruiting for Cerberus. His reasoning being, of course, that his hero was previously aligned with a pro-human organization. Cerberus sabotaged the Metagel stores while he had everyone distracted. Shepard tells him what he is doing is wrong, and realizing how he screwed up again, he agrees to stop, and then asks the commander what he can do to help. This leads to finding out he has a doctoral degree in xenoscience and sends Shepard a copy of his dissertation on dark energy. If Shepard keeps talking to Conrad, the commander can get him to talk about his friends and family. When asked if he lost anybody, Conrad says that he lost some of the former and had none of the latter to speak of. Shepard reminds Conrad of his wife, which he then reveals that he lied about. Conrad then admits that he has a tasteful picture of Shepard surrounded by candles as a shrine. 25. Refuse ending. The refusal ending sees Shepard refuse to make a decision from the catalyst, instead claiming to retain his and everyone else's freedom. As a result, the Reapers continue their work, wiping out sentient life in the galaxy and setting up the cycle to continue, rendering everything Shepard did for naught, and more races are left to encounter the same fate some 50,000 years later. The only shred of a chance the next generation has is the recording from Liara, compiling what happened in their own feeble attempts. 26. Cerberus Skunk Works. Cerberus Skunk Works is a hidden manufacturer only accessible with the PC cheats. This manufacturer would have produced the Gorgon line of assault rifles, the Hydra line of shotguns, the Harpy line of pistols, and the Titan line of sniper rifles. 27. Council Alive or Dead ending. Based on Shepard's decision to save the Council or allow them to die has various effects. Should Shepard save them, they will be grateful and humanity will be allowed a seat on the Council, despite being such a young race. Additionally, in Mass Effect 3, the Destiny Ascension will be added to your military strength. Overall, you will be reinstated as a Spectre, and other alien races will be more open to Shepard and other humans. However, if Shepard allows the Council to die, whether it is recreated with the addition of a single human, things will be quite different. Being wary of Shepard, the Council will not even grant him an audience, and prioritize human soldiers over the leaders of all other races will make Citadel NPCs far less friendly with you. 28. Zaid and Kasumi stories. Both DLC additions to the roster, Zaid and Kasumi have interesting stories to tell. Zaid reveals that he co-founded the Blue Suns mercenary group with Vito Santiago, who betrayed him and shot him in the face. He asks for Shepard's aid in subduing and killing him. He is still contracted by Cerberus to aid Commander Shepard in the mission to save mankind, and can be seen in Mass Effect 3 assuming he wasn't killed. Kasumi is an expert thief proficient in stealth, infiltration, and sabotage. Cerberus tried to contact Kasumi Goto to get her to join Commander Shepard's mission. She noticed this and contacted Cerberus instead after trailing them. When that's done, Cerberus sends Shepard an email containing meetup instructions, entitled Rendezvous with Kasumi Goto. For her loyalty mission and to join the crew, she requests that Shepard join her heist and recover Kaiji Okuda's gray box from Donovan Hawk. 29. Prothean History. As drawn from the wiki, a brief history of the Protheans can be read as thus. After achieving spaceflight, the Protheans discovered the ruins of a previous spacefaring race, the Unasanan, and from these ruins learned about Mass Effect physics and developed faster-than-light technology. The Protheans would expand throughout the galaxy with the help of the Mass Relay Network and make the Citadel their capital. Early in their development, the Protheans encountered a hostile machine intelligence which threatened to overwhelm them. To defeat the machines, the Protheans decided to unite all of the galaxy's sentient organic life under their empire. The other organic races were free to resist, but those that tried were crushed, and none ever managed to best the Protheans' might. In time, each of the subjugated races assimilated into Prothean culture and came to think of themselves as Prothean. United under a single cause, the Prothean Empire successfully held off the enemy machines in a conflict known as the Metacon War. The Protheans extensively observed primitive species such as the Asari, Hanar, humans, Quarians, Solarians, and Turians during their time. They cultivated species they deemed to have potential. Numerous outposts were placed on or near the primitive homeworlds, with Prothean interference and activities kept beyond their subjects' comprehension. In time, the Protheans would have given these primitives the choice to be part of their empire. The Protheans' belief that they could hold their own against machine intelligence was shattered with the arrival of the Reapers in approximately 48,000 BCE, who were far more advanced than the machines the Protheans had been battling. They were caught completely off guard by the scale and rapidness of the assault. The Reapers entered the galaxy through the Citadel, instantly decapitating the Protheans' government and disrupting the mass relay network, isolating Prothean systems from one another. Worse, records on the Citadel provided the Reapers with access to all of the Prothean census data and star charts, allowing them to effectively track every Prothean in the galaxy. The Protheans' greatest strength, their unified empire, proved to be their downfall. As the Protheans were united under the leadership of a single governing species with a series of subordinate races, the Reapers were able to quickly undermine the Prothean hierarchy and cause Prothean forces to become scattered when their ruling body had been compromised. In addition, as all the races within the Empire conformed to a single military doctrine, they proved unable to adapt when the Reapers identified and exploited their weaknesses. While their domain crumbled, the Protheans were powerless to defend other races from the Reapers' predations. They ceased all study of primitive species in the hope that the Reapers would deem them too primitive to harvest. It was hoped that some Protheans would survive the Reapers' purge and go on to unite these species to create a new empire. The Protheans' primitive subjects survived and went on to become the present cycle's dominant ones. Other races subjugated under them, however, weren't as lucky. The Densoran, a race who had mastered sciences beyond even the Protheans' understanding, attempt to pacify the Reapers by sacrificing their own children to them, but this only allowed the Reapers to destroy them more quickly. The Zatil, symbiotic AIs that had been created by a race called the Za to keep themselves alive on their dying homeworld, were subjugated by the Reapers and formed hostile mechanical swarms. They became such a threat that the Protheans were forced to obliterate the Zatil entirely by sending the star of the Za's home system into supernova. Over the next several centuries, the Protheans fought the Reapers from system to system, world to world, and city to city. If necessary, whole colonies were sacrificed and abandoned to the Reapers. While the Reapers concentrated on subsuming the inhabitants of those colonies, the Protheans had time to regroup. In the long run, however, this strategy was extremely costly, depriving the remaining Protheans of whatever infrastructure and manpower they had given up. Inexorably, the Reapers conquered, enslaved, or destroyed Prothean-controlled planets. Growing desperate, some Protheans made repeated offers of surrender to the Reapers, but these were always met with silence. In addition to the overt threat of the Reapers, the Protheans had to increasingly deal with enemies from within their own ranks. Indoctrinated Protheans acted as sleeper agents for the Reapers, infiltrating and swiftly betraying their own kind and revealing the Protheans' dwindling hiding places and carefully laid plans to survive the destruction. It was on the planet known to them as E4 that the Protheans discovered the plans for the Crucible, using an information cache that had been left behind by the long-extinct Rakfili to both find and translate the schematics for the weapon. Having reconquered the Citadel late in their war during a last-ditch effort, the Protheans moved into the space near E4 to unite the two pieces and fire the weapon. Heroically defending their engineering teams, the Prothean fleets held their ground while the process was completed. The energy wave that pulsed out upon firing of the weapon destroyed both the Reaper and Prothean fleets, spreading through the mass relays to every corner of the galaxy and doing the same to any modern technology it encountered. Although the Reapers had finally been defeated, the small pockets of Protheans that remained were too insubstantial in population and vastly spread out to continue. Within a century, the last living Prothean vanished from the galaxy. Level 3. Under the Surface. 30. Liara's Beacon for the next cycle. As seen in the refuse ending and when discussed when answering Liara's message and inviting her into the captain's quarters, Liara leaves a beacon filled with information from their failed cycle in order to better aid the races of the next, including information about Shepard. She was seeding copies of this module on multiple planets so that, should a race develop and find one, they may be better prepared for the Reapers than they were. 31. Indoctrination Theory. The indoctrination theory speculates that Commander Shepard has become fully brainwashed by the Reapers by the time they reach the end of the game, due to their proximity to beacons, Reapers, and other such indoctrinating artifacts, and that they have been manipulated over the course of the trilogy. Furthermore, the ending sequence of the game, after Harbinger attacks Shepard, is merely a figment of Shepard's mind, thus all that happens after this is a result of indoctrination. Further extrapolated upon by Away or AFK, this theory states, after Shepard gets hit by Harbinger, he's unconscious, maybe near death, and weak-minded. Everything that follows is the subconscious struggle to get him to submit to indoctrination. I believe that the hallucination begins after Shepard passes out the second time. Anderson and the elusive man supposedly each represent a side of Shepard's psyche, while he must choose between them. The scene is beautiful because Shepard overcomes or dies. After this scene, the true test presents itself. Shepard, after watching Anderson die, crawls toward the main control panel, but passes out a few inches short. And some people believe that this is where Shepard truly goes unconscious. Whatever the case, this is where the indoctrination theory shines. Keep the following points in mind. The dream sequence Little Boy. Obvious symbolism throughout the game taking place in Shepard's subconscious. The boy, who may or may not actually exist, is present in the dreams, always being enveloped in flames. Then, in the final dream, we see Shepard with the boy, also being enveloped. Do not trust the child. The appearance of the catalyst implies this heavily. Why else would it look like the child? Shepard's eyes. If synthesis or control is chosen in the end, Shepard's eyes are shown to have indoctrinated eyes, like the elusive man or Saren. Ironically, these two antagonists supported control and synthesis respectively. Reverse moral colors. This is a subtle yet effective clue that the Reapers are trying to play on Shepard's morals. Destroy, the only reasonable choice to some, is colored red, the renegade choice, while the two other choices are virtuous and best, as they do not lead to the full destruction of the Reapers. Breath scene. This is the most important point in this theory. There is no reason to include this scene otherwise. The devs also didn't omit this with the extended cut, so it was meant to be there. Seeing Shepard take that last breath showing he survived. However, Chris Helper, who worked on Mass Effect, talked about the indoctrination theory with The Gamer, stating, "The indoctrination theory is a really interesting theory, but it's entirely created by the fans. While we made some of the ending a little trippy because Shepard is a breath away from dying, and it's entirely possible there's some subconscious power to the kid's words, we never had the sort of meetings you need to have to properly seed it throughout the game. We weren't that smart. By all means, make mods and write fanfic about it, and enjoy whatever floats your boat, because it's a cool way to interpret the game. But it wasn't our intention. We didn't write that." 32. Killing Rex both times. There are two situations throughout the game that are considered the two killing grounds for Rex. The first takes place on Vermeer, after either failing to quell Rex or outright shooting him, as he may conflict with destroying Saren's base and the genophage cure housed there. The second takes place in Mass Effect 3 if the genophage wasn't cured. Rex will learn that Shepard allowed the Solarian sabotage to go unfixed. If Shepard doesn't shoot Rex the first time the opportunity presents itself, Shepard signals Commander Bailey and a few Turian CSEC officers to riddle Rex with bullets. If Shepard shoots Rex the second time when the chance presents itself, the shot blasts Rex out of the window and the Krogan falls to his demise. Otherwise, Commander Bailey will be the one to blast Rex out the window, but not before letting Rex have his last words. "I know what you did, Shepard." 33. Ardat Yakshi and Morinth Companion. Ardat Yakshi, or Demon of the Night Winds, are Asari suffering from a genetic disorder preventing conventional melding of nervous systems during mating. Instead, Ardat Yakshi electrochemically ravage their partners' nervous systems, in extreme cases leaving victims as vegetative invalids or corpses. Asari psychologists regard this incapacity for mental fusion as preventing the development of empathy, leading to psychopathy, and there is no known cure. The disorder generally begins in infancy, reaching full pathology during maiden adolescent sexual development. While seductive and sexually driven as other Asari, Ardat Yakshi are congenitally sterile. Ancient Asari mythology held Ardat Yakshi as gods of destruction, depicting them as villains of countless legends and as the anti-heroes of numerous Asari epics. Contrary to popular belief, Ardat Yakshi are neither extremely rare, around 1% of Asari dwell on the Ardat Yakshi spectrum, nor are they all murderers. Most cultivate and discard countless exploitive or abusive relationships during their legally marginal lives. Despite rumors of Ardat Yakshi syndicates, by nature Ardat Yakshi are incapable of long-term cooperation. As a disproportionately wealthy species, Asari employ their economic reach and media ownership to hide the Ardat Yakshi pathology from the galactic community, placing most Ardat Yakshi in monitored work programs or seclusion. Only the most aggressive cases are sentenced to sanitaria and prisons or to the execution lists of justicars. In Samara's personal mission, Shepard helps her locate and kill one of her daughters, Morinth, who is an Ardat Yakshi that has eluded capture for her entire life, leading to countless deaths as she melds with her partners, showing no remorse over their deaths. However, Shepard may have the choice to help Morinth, betraying Samara and killing her. As a result, Morinth will use her powers to assume Samara's form as she takes her mother's place on the Normandy, and, if romanced, will kill Shepard through the melding process as well, resulting in a game over. 34. Blasto and Shepard Act. Blasto is a Hanar character introduced in the film Blasto the Jellyfish Stings and is described as having a lover in every port and a gun in every tentacle, with his character in movies reminiscent of spy movies or action heroes. After the Normandy hijacking, Javik informs Commander Shepard that he has been invited to star in a vid, which turns out to be Blasto 7, Blasto Goes to War. The Salarian director introduces the cast, including the Vorcha, Salarian, and Volus council members, and Blasto. Upon realization of Shepard and Javik's involvement, the actor Blasto insists that he does not share top billing, but is convinced by the director and Javik otherwise. In the film, the council gives Blasto, Shepard, and Javik the mission of stopping the Reapers. It soon becomes apparent that in the vids, Blasto is considered the hero of the Citadel, and Shepard can take issue with that portrayal or play along. Javik is a bit more disruptive, even going so far as to threaten the Salarian counselor and Blasto. The director soon cuts to a new scene, where Sovereign's half-brother Sluggard attacks seeking revenge. The Vorcha counselor is revealed to be indoctrinated and threatens the heroes. While Shepard and Blasto can argue who gets to shoot, Javik decides that enough is enough and strikes the Vorcha actor with a biotic attack, knocking him off his feet. As Javik and Shepard leave disappointed, the director is overheard calling for a new Vorcha actor so they can start work on Blasto 8. Blasto cures the genophage. 35. Sluggard the Reaper. As previously stated, Sluggard the Reaper appears in Blasto 7 Blasto Goes to War, being Sovereign's half-brother who has come for revenge against the hero of the Citadel who is stated to be Blasto, not Shepard. 36. Shepard's pre-Mass Effect 1 history. As part of the profile reconstruction in Mass Effect 1, Shepard's history can be broken up into the options of Spacer, Earthborn, or Colonists, impacting how others talk to the character and, when in conjunction with their psychological profile, impacts how many Paragon or Renegade points that they start the game with. Their pre-service history reads as thus. Spacer, both of your parents were in the Alliance military. Your childhood was spent on ships and station as they transferred from posting to posting, never staying in one location for more than a few years. Following in your parents' footsteps, you enlisted at the age of 18. Earthborn, You were an orphan raised on the streets of the great megatropolises covering Earth. You escaped the life of petty crime and underworld gangs by enlisting in the Alliance military when you turned 18. Colonist. You were born and raised on Mindor, a small border colony in the Attican Traverse. When you were 16, slavers raided Mindor, slaughtering your family and friends. You were saved by a passing Alliance patrol, and you enlisted with the military a few years later. Shepard's psychological profile choices read as thus. Sole survivor. During your service, a mission you were on went horribly wrong. Trapped in an extreme survival situation, you had to overcome physical torments and psychological stresses that would have broken most people. You survived while all those around you fell, and now you are alone and left to tell the tale. The sole survivors unit was slaughtered in a Thresher Maw attack on Akuz. War hero. Early in your military career, you found yourself facing an overwhelming enemy force. You risked your own life to save your fellow soldiers and defeat the enemy despite the impossible odds. Your bravery and heroism have earned you medals and recognition from the Alliance fleet. The war hero almost single-handedly repelled an attack by Batarian slavers on Elysium, earning the Star of Terra, the Alliance's highest honor. Ruthless. Throughout your military career, you have held fast to one basic rule: get the job done. You've been called cold, calculating, and brutal. Your reputation for ruthless efficiency makes your fellow soldiers wary of you, but when failure is not an option, the military always goes to you first. The ruthless character sent 3/4 of her unit to its death and murdered surrendering Batarians on Torfan. 37. Anderson's history. Captain David Edward Anderson is a human war hero and the original captain of the SSV Normandy. Anderson was born on June 8, 2137, to Ursula and Paul Anderson, a nurse and flight mechanic respectively, in the city of London on Earth, and was the last of 3 children by his parents' second marriage. Anderson is one of the Alliance's most decorated Special Forces operatives, and the first to graduate from the N7 Special Forces program at Arcturus Station, serving with honor in the First Contact War. He was once considered for Spectre candidacy, but things went sour on a mission with Saren, who already disliked him, and broke from their plan. Many innocent people died due to Saren's actions. However, Saren shifted the blame onto Anderson, claiming the lieutenant had alerted the guards and forced his hand. True or not, this was enough to keep Anderson out of the Spectres. 38. The Geth are actually nice. The violent Geth seen in Mass Effect 1 working for Saren and at other locations are known as heretics by the true Geth, as the heretics vie to please Sovereign, who they believe to be an old god. In actuality, most true Geth seek the peaceful advancement of their own race, independent of the influence of the rest of the galactic society, and believe every sentient species should be able to do the same, an attitude which shows that the Geth are significantly less hostile than the galactic community initially believed. They fought because they wanted freedom from the Quarians, who made them and enslaved them. They merely wish for the ability to self-determinate. So it may be assumed that, had the Quarians merely accepted the Geth as they gained sentience instead of trying to destroy them, peace could have been achieved outright. 39. Paul and Gillian Grayson. Gillian Grayson was a student at the John Grissom Academy and the adoptive daughter of Paul Grayson, a Cerberus operative and Red Sand addict. She showed promising biotic ability early on and had high-functioning autism. Gillian was 12 during her time as a victim of a Cerberus operation and was likely exposed to Element Zero during the Cerberus-orchestrated industrial accident on Yendoa. After Gillian is found by a Quarian on his pilgrimage and brought to the migrant fleet where Paul Grayson finds her, Paul agreed to let her stay on the flotilla to protect her from Cerberus, which he no longer believed in, along with Hendel, who had formed a bond with the autistic girl. Both Hendel and Gillian were picked by the captain of the Edina to accompany him on his search for a new Quarian homeworld. Paul escaped from the Quarian vessel, threatening the elusive man that, should any harm come to Kali Sanders, who helped Jillian and swayed Paul against Cerberus or Jillian herself, he would tell the Alliance everything he knew. 40. James Vega's pre-Mass Effect 3 anime. In the pre-Mass Effect 3 anime, Mass Effect Paragon Lost, we see an animated feature film following the early career of James Vega as he leads an elite Special Forces squad into battle against collectors. The synopsis claims that, stationed at a colony in a remote star system, Vega and his troops must protect the colonists from the alien invaders bent on abducting humans for unknown purposes. Outmanned and outgunned, Vega must rally his squad to defend the colony at all costs, even if it means making the ultimate sacrifice. 41. Joker's sister's fate. As heard in snippets from a recovering Asari commando, Ian, the presumed fate of Joker's lost sister, the hoped last surviving member of his family, is revealed. As we learn that Joker's home of Tiptree was invaded and no signs of his family have been found in refugee camps, it is presumed that they were all killed, turned into husks, or worse. After Ian took off her weapons to shower, a banshee and husks attack, leading her and a young human girl named Hillary, the same name as Joker's younger sister, to flee. After 2 days with no food and only rudimentary weapons, Ian realized that their only chance was to retrieve the radio she left at the farm and signal for help. She and Hillary snuck back in to find a number of farmers still alive. Unaware of the farmers' indoctrination, Hillary freed them, only for them to begin screaming, raising the alarm and beginning to attack. Ian used her biotics to carve a path to escape again, but Hillary broke her leg and was unable to stay quiet, let alone run. At risk of being discovered by Niara, the Banshee, Ian was forced to kill Hillary, surviving to escape with valuable data that earned her a medal. This particular Hillary was confirmed by writer Patrick Weeks as being Joker's sister. 42. Cerberus Daily News Network. The Cerberus Daily News Network, CDNN, delivers daily news about the Mass Effect universe via the Cerberus Network. In-universe, these news reports take place in 2185 CE. Various discoveries and world events are detailed in the CDNN, such as the Manuel Expedition. In this expedition, Victor Manswell funded a venture in 2070, with 300 people being cryogenically frozen and departing in 2075. Contact was re-established with the expedition more than a century later by an Asari expedition, with the now established Manswell colony having lived in isolation outside of the Sol system this entire time with no knowledge of aliens or the state of Earth. Of course, other entries, some quite in line with Cerberus's values, question human parents leaving too much child rearing to synthetic hands, with studies indicating that the practice is on the rise and should be cause for alarm. Could this, should it be allowed to continue, instill a greater compassion for synthetic life and values, perhaps leading to more empathy towards the Geth and other such races? After all, the study notes how more than half of urban households utilize them, thus conditioning human infants and children to view them as safe, stand-in caretakers. 43. Mass Effect Comics and Books. There are currently 11 comic books, of which 6 are series, and 7 main books with additional stories. Many of the comics focus on alternate characters, excluding Shepard, which is the main focus of the games. While 3 of these books focus on Andromeda, another 3 focus on Jillian and Paul Grayson's story, and the final one on Anderson's rise through the ranks, meeting Saren, and his Spectre position being lost. 44. Emily Wong's fate. Emily Wong was a human journalist. In Mass Effect 3, or rather, the Twitter build-up in anticipation for Mass Effect 3, Emily Wong reports for FCC News and the Alliance News Network from Earth on the Sol system's mysterious comm buoy outage. She is able to establish limited off-world communications through short text-only messages sent via a quantum entanglement communicator. While reporting, she witnesses a Reaper descending through Earth's atmosphere into airspace over Los Angeles. She eventually arrives at El Monte Airport, where she meets some members of the National Guard who are attempting to hold off the Reapers with anti-aircraft guns. Wong realizes that the signal she is broadcasting led the Reaper forces to that location. In an attempt to escape in a sky van, Wong is shot at and injured as the Alliance forces and airport are destroyed. Bleeding badly and without any other weapons to use, she steers her sky van toward an approaching Reaper at ramming speed. Her signal is subsequently lost and she is presumed dead. 45. Dead Reapers everywhere. As in the case of the derelict Reaper, dead Reapers can be found throughout the universe. Other Reapers have been destroyed in previous and current cycles. If so, why were these Reapers left behind? Would not the other Reapers perhaps mourn them or wish to keep their advanced technology and secrets from the next cycle or their current enemies? Perhaps they imagined that their fallen comrades would never be found or were otherwise unable to locate them once they fell silent. Another theory suggests that they were left behind, their true intent unknown, in order to provide technology and aid to the next unwitting sentient species that would rise to the stars, thus accelerating them toward their inevitable harvest. Level 4. Center of the Iceberg. 46. Asari True Forms. As drawn together and postulated by a since-deleted Reddit user, what we see of the Asari are not their true forms. The Asari are the famous blue race of aliens which inhabit Thessia in the Mass Effect series. The species is famous for looking extremely human-like, even having a similar eye type to humans. How could two species from two different parts of the galaxy come to look so similar to one another? The answer? The Asari aren't as they are depicted in the game. The Asari are famous for their ability to play with the minds of other species. This is depicted multiple times with the line, "Embrace eternity." At this time, their eyes would turn a deep black and they would reach into the minds of others to manipulate or fuse memories with them. In one scene, Shepard is on Omega looking for Morinth, the rogue daughter of one of your companions. As she tries to seduce you, her eyes turn pure black and her skin lightens by a few shades of color. My theory is that the Asari reveal a small aspect of their true form as they manipulate the minds of other species. Why? Because just as they touch upon your thoughts, you are also coming into contact with the surface of theirs. This reveals a small aspect of who they really are. In Mass Effect 2, you travel to an Asari colony called Ilium. On this planet, there is a bar which you can go into to find missions and so on. One aspect of this bar is a notable Easter egg. In this scene, you can see a group of friends, a Salarian, a human, and a Turian, all enjoying the dance of an Asari. They were throwing a bachelor party for the Salarian. The characters begin to question whether the Asari may be manipulating them at a telepathic level to keep them enticed. The Salarian even says, "My people don't have sex drives the way you humans do." Even so, the Salarian begins to show sexual attraction to the Asari after a few moments of watching her dance. How can a species which lacks such a definitive sex drive experience sexual attraction unless there was some underlying manipulation of their minds occurring? This scene also touches upon the most important piece of evidence. They all claim the Asari resemble their own species. The Salarian claims that Asari looks like him, the human claims the same, as does the Turian. Essentially, this could be taken as irrefutable evidence that the Asari are actually an unknown species in terms of what they actually look like. I believe that their species has black eyes and lighter colored skin and possible tentacles which would explain the shape of their heads. Beyond that, the rest is up for debate. But what of the ancient statues of Asari on Thessia? Perhaps this mind trick goes as far as being able to alter the conscious perception of a living being's ability to recognize an Asari's true form. And as the Asari statues are found deep within their home planet, the odds are that an alien race must have encountered an Asari prior to this so that they have been subject to this effect. Also, is this a conscious or unconscious feat? Given the uniformity of the image projected to each particular race, could this just be keying into what each race or potential breeding partner would most like based on their psyches. 47. Dextro and Levo species. The terms dextro and levo are Latin in origin, meaning to the right and to the left, respectively. In the context of the Mass Effect universe, this is noted in relation to the many alien species. For example, this refers to genome or DNA, which is spiral in shape and rotates either left or right. Krogans and humans, for example, have levo DNA, and Quarians and Turians are dextro-based. Cross-chiral reproduction would be impossible, although it doesn't have to be cross-chiral to be impossible. A cat cannot reproduce with a dog, even though they are both levo, as there are many other factors in play as well. Thus, a male shepherd romancing Tally would not result in any offspring, nor would a female shep mating with a Krogan, assuming she would even survive the ordeal. This may also factor into dietary and allergen interactions that is stated in canon, as to the dextro amino foods of Turians and Quarians versus the levo-based foods of pretty much all other races. As a Turian, dextro could eat human food, but would not digest it properly, perhaps like a lactose intolerance in humans, being otherwise not super harmful. A Quarian, however, with hypersensitive immune system to add to this, would probably have an anaphylactic shock from the same food, or a severe allergic reaction, perhaps necessitating a species-specific EpiPen or something much stronger. 48. Protheans eating the other races. During the Citadel DLC house party, Shepard asks Javik about what the Protheans ate and makes a comment that he should get cooking. And Javik stated, "Most of our ingredients went extinct, except for Krogan, Asari, Turian, Salarian, and Quarian. Is there any we could spare?" Admittedly, he seems to be somewhat drunk or otherwise impacted by alcohol when stating this, but it is known that the aforementioned species were seen as primitive at the height of the Prothean Empire, and the Protheans were a carnivorous species of evolved hunters, so this is perhaps not altogether unthinkable. Additionally, there are the following dialogue lines between Rex and Javik. Rex: "I prefer my Solarian liver served raw." Javik: "He is correct. It was a delicacy in my cycle." Going back to the idea of dextro and levo proteins, at least two of these species most likely would have not agreed with their physiology, according to universe lore. So perhaps this really was a drunken jest or poking fun at the others. 49. Paddlefish bonus. The Project Paddlefish bonus gives Shepard a 10% bonus to either weapon or power damage. If you import a save from Mass Effect 2 with a live Project Paddlefish, keeping it alive through an entire Mass Effect 3 playthrough and a Mass Effect 3 New Game Plus playthrough, you can get a special intel bonus from Liara's quarters on the Normandy. 50. Original Batarians. An iteration iteration of Mass Effect's story featured the Batarians as the primary enemies in place of the Geth. The Batarians were also originally intended to be small, bat-like people. 51. Shepard's apartment in Mass Effect 1. The Pinnacle DLC in Mass Effect 1 debuted on August 29, 2009, over a year after the game's release on November 16, 2007. As a part of this arguably late DLC, Shepard gains an apartment in Intaise. However, at some point between the original release and the subsequent release of the PS3 version and the later Mass Effect Legendary Edition, BioWare's source code archive for the DLC was discovered to be corrupted. The backups of the original developer, Demiurge Studios, were checked as well and also discovered to be mostly unusable. In an interview, Mac Walters, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition team, described an emotional roller coaster and said that it would basically take us another full 6 months just to do this with most of the team we've got. I wish we could do it, honestly, just because this is meant to be everything that the team ever created brought together again, all the single-player content. And so, leaving it all on the cutting room floor, it was heartbreaking. 52. Leviathan. The Leviathans are an ancient aquatic race that dominated the galaxy in the time before the Reapers, of which the Reapers base their appearance. With the advent of the Reapers, the Leviathans were forced into hiding to preserve themselves, and were content to observe the Reapers' harvests while surreptitiously erasing any evidence of their existence over the course of hundreds of millions of years. The Leviathans possess the natural ability to influence the behaviors of lesser-minded organisms to the point of complete physical and mental control, an effect that is similar to indoctrination. They can use this ability to communicate with other beings in a manner similar to telepathy, as well as to turn them into thralls. The exact mechanics of this ability are unknown, but it has been compared to the Rachni's theorized ability to communicate using an organic quantum entanglement communicator analog that stimulates neural activity. Overexertion of this mind control ability causes nosebleeds in humans, and in extreme cases can lead to brain damage and death. It is possible that the Leviathans further enhance themselves cybernetically, allowing them to use Element Zero to travel through space and breathe air with the use of filtration systems. They might have even modified themselves with biotic amplifiers. In addition, their faster-than-light communication pulses require precise control with technology completely unknown to modern science. Every new species they encountered was enthralled to serve them and provide tribute, and in return, the thralls were cared for and protected. Over time, however, they observed that their thralls would frequently build synthetic constructs to aid them. These synthetics consistently rebelled, wiping out many thrall species. In response, the Leviathans created an intelligence with the mandate to preserve life at all costs. The Leviathans failed to perceive the intelligence as a threat. They considered it nothing more than another tool to achieve a set goal. As the intelligence sought out the means to fulfill its mandate, it created an army of pawns that were dispatched to collect genetic data from species throughout the galaxy, much like the collectors employed by the Reapers in modern times. Eventually, the intelligence came to the conclusion that the Leviathans themselves were part of the problem and turned against them. The intelligence's betrayal of its creators was sudden and devastating. Its pawns slaughtered most of the Leviathans, using their genetic material to create the very first Reaper. As the Leviathans hid, they surreptitiously enthralled subsequent species to erase the remaining evidence of their existence. Resigned to the Reaper's reign, they focused their efforts on ensuring the survival of their species, watching the galaxy through organic artifacts for signs of their discovery. Though they had the power to destroy Reapers, demonstrated when they killed the Leviathan of Dis, the Leviathans declined to aid the galaxy's species against the Reapers. Realizing that the Reapers fear Shepard for defeating Sovereign and the Collectors, other Leviathans reveal themselves. Together, they agree to aid the galaxy in the war against the Reapers because they still consider themselves the galaxy's apex race, not out of a desire to help lesser species. The Leviathans swear to make slaves out of any Reapers daring to trespass on their domain. As Shepard departs the planet, the Leviathans turn a brute against other husks and use their artifacts to transmit a powerful pulse that disables an attacking Reaper capital ship, illustrating their power. During the war, the Leviathans are able to sever the Reaper's control over a group of collectors. These awakened collectors subsequently join the fight against the Reapers to avenge the Protheans. With assistance from Spec Ops soldiers, Leviathan artifacts are also deployed behind enemy lines, allowing them to subvert Reaper forces to their will. During the final battle over Earth, Shepard can inform the intelligence that its creators have joined the war, to which it responds they are welcome to, as it is only carrying out their commands. 53. Shepard Clone and VI. Shepard's clone is a Cerberus-made clone of the Commander. It was originally created to provide spare organs and limbs for the real Commander Shepard, who was being revived by the Lazarus Project. Sometime in 2184, the order was given for the clone's termination. Agent Rasa had other ideas and decided to liberate it from Cerberus's hands. A violent shootout at Lazarus Research Station resulted in Rasa severing ties with Cerberus and escaping with the clone's tank. One of its known hiding places was Ross's old stomping grounds on an asteroid orbiting Themis. The clone remained in storage until 6 months before the Reaper invasion in 2186, when it was awoken by Rossa, then known as Maya Brooks. Over the intervening months during Shepard's incarceration, the clone learned how to be human with the help of neural implants, and with Brooks' help devised a plan to kill and assume the role of the commander in order to carry out a pro-human agenda. To accomplish this, the clone hired the Cat-6 private military corporation to eliminate Shepard and her close allies, since the clone lacked the original's memories, thereby unable to perfectly impersonate the commander. The Shepard VI can be found in the docks holding area of the Citadel, near Cargo Hold A. Simply speak to the shopkeeper and she will activate him. He can then be spoken to and will run through a number of Shepard-like sayings. 54. Fornax. Costing 5 credits an issue and available on Omega, Fornax is a magazine of human publication featuring acts of xenophilia, featuring various alien races. By its 5th year, it became the first human magazine to offer full 5-sensory stimulation. Take that as you will. 55. Leviathan of Dis. The Leviathan of Dis is the name given to a gigantic corpse that disappeared from a crater on Hydra in 2163. It is believed to be the remains of a genetically engineered starship, and its age was originally placed at nearly 1 billion years old. Dr. Bryson's real interest in the Reaper corpse is the entity that killed it, which he identifies as the true Leviathan. 56. Overlord DLC. Project Overlord was a Cerberus research project that sought to control the Geth. David Archer, chief scientist Dr. Gavin Archer's brother, volunteered for the experiment to meld his mind to a VI. The VI overwhelmed David, and the resulting hybrid essentially became a virus, which proceeded to take over the facility and use the live Geth that had been acquired for the project to kill off the Cerberus staff in Hermes, Vulcan, Prometheus, and Atlas stations. It is later revealed that David Archer, the human component of the hybrid VI, was autistic and a mathematical savant. David's unparalleled understanding of mathematics allowed him to communicate with the Geth on a fundamental level. Communication had previously been a significant hurdle for the project, and without any results, the elusive man threatened to shut the project down. Dr. Archer realized the potential of this breakthrough and forcibly incorporated David into the VI. At this point, the hybrid VI went berserk and began its rampage and escape attempt. In 2186, Gavin Archer can be met again by Shepard in Gelix, where he took up refuge with other ex-Cerberus scientists. If asked, he shares his knowledge of what happened to the project. If Shepard freed David, Gavin began feeling regret over being involved in Project Overlord. Thus, he chose to erase all information on the project and left Cerberus. David was left in the care of John Grissom Academy and is one of the students trapped there when Cerberus invades the station in 2186. If Shepard chose to let Overlord continue, Gavin reveals that, as the test continued, David began communicating better and better before suddenly becoming catatonic. Out of regret and feeling it was the only way, he euthanized his brother to end his suffering and fled Cerberus. He gives Shepard the Overlord results. If Shepard never investigated Project Overlord, Gavin states that the situation in the research facilities eventually grew out of control and he was forced to detonate its nuclear failsafe device, which destroyed the whole base. It is also revealed that the Geth had been eavesdropping on Cerberus regarding Project Overlord. The synthetics have refined the human VI interface into a much safer construct. Instead of intrusive body probes as was done with David Archer, the Geth version of the interface takes the form of an easily deployable, man-sized pod that scans its occupant, requiring only a minimum of movement during the initial mind upload. Legion, or the Geth VI, constructs such a device incorporating Normandy equipment on Rannoch if Shepard embarks on a mission that requires entering the Geth consensus. 57. How Saren started to work for Sovereign. Through Sovereign, Saren learns the fate of the many civilizations of eons past. Instead of using Sovereign as a weapon, as he intended, Saren makes it his goal to save the races of the galaxy by aiding the Reapers, proving the worth of organics to the Reapers so that they might be spared. However, the more time Saren spends in service to Sovereign, the more indoctrinated he becomes. His free will is gradually sapped and supplanted by the desires of the Reaper, and the values of his people that Saren still believes in, that an individual's personal needs are always subordinate to the greater good of the group, are twisted so gradually that Saren remains certain he is right. As for why Sovereign used Saren in the first place, Super Theanin of Reddit states that Vigil on Ilos said Sovereign couldn't reveal itself and attack the Citadel as it wouldn't be able to stand against the unfettered combined might of the Council race's fleets. As for why Sovereign didn't go straight to the Citadel and open it as a relay, it most likely didn't know what happened. It wouldn't have known the source of the issue. I think Vigil explained this too, that the Keepers ignored the call to open the relay. So, instead of just outright attacking the Citadel, he looked for the root cause of the Keepers ignoring the signal to avoid this happening again. This led to using Saren, since Sovereign wouldn't be able to act on the ground like Saren could. Saren finding and using the beacons on Eden Prime and Vermeer required him to go to Pharos so that Saren could get the cipher to decipher the beacons. Thus, the beacon showed Ilos, which was lost behind the Mu relay, so Saren used his connections to Novaria to get to the Rachni Queen and get the coordinates. After finding Ilos and the conduit, that got him into the Citadel from within, which made Sovereign's attacks much easier, as Saren was able to close the arms around Sovereign to protect it while it did what was needed. 58. Shepard is a myth theory. As stated by Kamikaze Girl, as we already know, at the ending of Mass Effect 3, our infamous commander is referred to as the Shepard, implying that the outcome of his or her actions were seemingly a part of his or her destiny and even portrayed as a mythical being, depending how far into the future the story was told. This made me think about something I think some of us have overlooked. Who is Commander Shepard, and why is he or she such an integral part of the galaxy surviving the Reaper threat? I mean, think about it. Shepard survived the Prothean beacon on Eden Prime, a device concocted for Prothean minds, not humans. Sovereign, Saren Arterius, Matriarch Benezia, the Elusive Man, potentially the Rachni Queen, the Collectors, Cerberus, and countless mercenaries throughout all three games, and last but not least, potentially his or her own death, 2 times if Destroy was chosen. Then we take into account that Shepard is the only person who made it as far to reach the Catalyst, whom allows him or her the right to choose the fate of the galaxy. Thus, Shepard is now the Shepard, passed on into a myth with accomplishments far beyond any other mortal. 59. Normandy Memorial. When the Alliance finds the wreckage of the SSV Normandy on the planet Alchera, they ask that a monument be placed on the site and any sign of the remaining 20 missing crew members recovered. As Shepard explores the wreckage, collecting dog tags and other items, flashbacks of times aboard the ship will play. While there are 4 possible outcomes to this assignment, the one in which all dog tags and N7 helmet recovered items reads as follows. A monument has been placed at the last resting place of the SSV Normandy on Alchera, and the families of all missing crew members have been notified of their ultimate sacrifice. Shepard's lost N7 helmet was recovered. 60. Shepard lives, Destroy ending. In this variant of the Destroy ending, Shepard must choose to activate the Crucible. Earth and the Normandy crew will all survive the blast. In the epilogue cutscene, Shepard's love interest, if they are a squad mate, will refuse to put the commander's name on the Normandy's memorial wall, and the final shot before the end credits will show the debris of the Crucible and Shepard taking a breath amid the rubble. How could Shepard have possibly survived this plunge and the destruction within the rubble? Regardless, some fans have taken this to mean that this variant of the Destroy ending is the canon one, as Shepard lives. 61. Elcor, Hanar, Soldiers. The The giant slow-moving Elcor and the jellyfish-esque Hanar are known to have military soldiers. However, each have adapted uniquely based on their physiology. The Elcor, because of their slow, conservative psyches, are not suitable for making the spur-of-the-moment decisions necessary in combat situations. Instead, they rely on sophisticated VI combat systems. These war machines can choose between thousands of gambits developed and polished over centuries by Elcor strategists. The slow speed and immense size of the Elcor makes them easy targets. Fortunately, their durable hide allows them to shrug off most incoming fire. Elcor warriors don't carry small arms. Their broad shoulders serve as a stable platform for the same size of weapons typically mounted on Alliance fighting vehicles. According to an Elcor diplomat on the Citadel, Elcor soldiers are called living tanks by their enemies, among other less flattering names. The Elcor do not maintain a large fleet of military starships. This seems to be due to a combination of their conservative nature, preventing hasty rushes to war, and their relatively isolated and self-sufficient economy that would never encounter a trade dispute serious enough to threaten war over. They do have several cruisers and carriers at their disposal, though their real value is in troop transport. The Hanar, on the other hand, of what we know, simply make use of a navy that is relatively small, but it is heavily supplemented by Drell combat specialists, the species that they saved, composed of accomplished spies, saboteurs, and assassins trained from an early age. 62. Verloi. The Verloi are an alien species from the planet Terves that made contact with the Asari in 2184 after launching their first space telescope. As reported by Cerberus Daily News in 2185, the Citadel Council formally welcomed the Verloi to the galactic community. Sold-out Council-sponsored shuttles arrived at Terves bearing intrigued visitors and gifts of goodwill during the welcoming ceremonies. At one point, the Krogan representatives of the Council delegation were ejected from the proceedings after introducing a violent sport called Kaula, which resulted in multiple deaths and injuries. After the conclusion of the ceremonies, a Verloi delegation was dispatched to the Citadel for a 3-month stay to learn about intergalactic law, history, alien biology and culture, and Mass Effect physics. In 2186, during the Reaper invasion, the Verloi delegation withdraws from the Citadel. Unwilling and unable to fight the Reapers, the Verloi decide to isolate themselves on Terves and destroy any satellites and observation equipment in orbit around their planet. They hope that the Reapers will see them as a pre-spaceflight civilization and spare their planet. 63. Arya T'Loak is Alina. The Arya T'Loak is Alina theory speculates that the two are the same person. Alina was a former Asari commando and mercenary. During her mercenary years, she was a close friend of Verdnot Rex before his encounter with Commander Shepard. They stayed close until Rex received a contract to kill Alina. Since the two were friends, they decided to test their abilities and battle it out. They found an old space station and fought for days, until Rex realized that the station's core was about to explode and managed to escape just in time. He later received a message from Alina, who was also able to escape, telling him, "Better luck next time." Since then, Alina's location had been unknown. Arya T'Loak appears in the Mass Effect trilogy as the ruler of Omega. During dialogue with Arya in Mass Effect 2, she hints at her past as a former Asari commando and mercenary. This has led many fans to theorize that the two of them are the same, since it cannot be a mere coincidence that one disappears just as the other emerges. 64. Human Reaper, weird design. The Human Reaper was a Reaper in its early stages of production, and is actually considered a Human Reaper larva. Despite its relative infancy, it was alive and was able to react to stimulus, thus attempting to crush Shepard and his team. Every cycle, Reapers select one sentient species in particular to be the basis of their core. It's stated that the core of any Reaper is constructed in the image of the species that was harvested to create it, while the exterior follows a standardized design that is most efficient for their purpose. In other words, this human reaper emulating a human's upper half and torso would eventually be cocooned in the more squid-like body based off of leviathans that we are familiar with. 65. Elcor Hamlet. There is a news story for Francis Kitt's Elcor Hamlet. Theater, a medium in which tone, inflection, physical cues, and the like are utilized in infusing emotion into a believable performance, would be completely lost if an Elcor were to perform it. Elcor cannot express readable emotions when talking to them, as their race uses a complex pheromone system to do that. So they preface every sentence with a statement of tone of the sentence. It would sound as monotone and lifeless as one could imagine. Level 5. Lower half. 66. Delayed menstruation in humans. Humans biologically active longer. In the Mass Effect universe, humans typically live to be approximately 150 years old, thanks in part to medical advancements and having eradicated almost all known diseases that can afflict them. Perhaps as a result, the onset of physical maturity has shifted. It is stated that humans reach physical maturity at approximately 18 years of age, suggesting that the process is delayed or humans have adapted to develop maturity over a longer course of time, perhaps due to hormones or other factors from their advancements. 67. Soviet Moon Probe. The Soviet moon probe, Luna 23, was launched in October 1974 and can be found in the game and salvaged when found in the Mare Crisium. 68. Major religions died out. The novels describe how the main or major religions of Earth died out after the discovery of the Mars Prothean technology. But is that truly feasible? Would the existence of alien technology completely shake so much of Earth's populace so that they would abandon their religious doctrine? Perhaps it wasn't immediate, but fell away with each successive generation and rapid suggestion, with few consistent followers. That being said, humans have only been part of the Galactic Republic for a mere 26 years. However, small examples of those that still prescribe to these traditional beliefs, such as the Williams family being Christian, or at least ascribing to a monotheistic religion, can be found. Ashley Williams has strong religious beliefs but is hesitant to discuss them with Shepard because she's concerned of the uneasiness it may cause in others, most likely due to how uncommon or backwards it may seem now. Her faith only appears to be strengthened by her work in space. Quote, "How can you look out at this galaxy and not believe in something?" End quote. And she believes that her father who has passed away is with God. Thus, the major religions of our time have slowly died out, save for a select few families that continue the belief system and who generally hide these beliefs from others. 69. Sha'ira mind controls people. The Asari Sha'ira, known to many as the Consort, is an influential Asari with many famous and powerful clients, and she charges a hefty sum for her services. She is surrounded by many acolytes of various races that tend to her and her clients that she is unable to see personally. Due to her fame and being such a highly respected figure on the Citadel, many believe that she is actually utilizing mind control on her clients and those that have met her to some degree. As previously speculated, the Asari may use some of their mind-melding abilities to project, whether consciously or unconsciously, the visage of a being most close to the viewers, most likely to ensure their reproductive diversity with other alien races comes to fruition. What if Sha'ira's abilities are particularly potent, her powers ensuring that the vast majority of those that come into contact with her view her in a favorable light, and she uses these powers to satisfy her clients? Even other Asari and her acolytes are so pulled by this supposed magnetism that they devote themselves to her. 70. Kelly Chambers dies. First appearing in Mass Effect 2 as a yeoman and psychologist and romanceable option, Kelly Chambers can meet her end in a couple of ways. The first occurs in the same game, after she is abducted by the Collectors. Should Shepard delay the mission to go through the Omega-4 relay, Then they will witness Kelly and the other crew members being dissolved into raw organic material, or paste, as Dr. Chakwa states, and be used to create the human Reaper. In Mass Effect 3, she can die in two specific ways. If, after she reveals to Shepard that she sent reports on them and the crew to the elusive man, and she is admonished for it, she will cry before later ingesting a cyanide pill. Next, after the Cerberus attack on the Citadel, if she is not told to change her identity, it is discovered that she was killed by Cerberus, as can be overheard by other refugees. Her initial loyalty to Cerberus and her potential death by their hands is all the more depressing when reading her cut dialogue from Mass Effect 3, which reads, "Well, I've been questioning myself. I owe Cerberus a great deal. Was it right for me to leave them? It's a long story. Did you know that I actually met the elusive man face to face once? Few have. Before Cerberus, I was a waitress on a luxury liner with a very exclusive clientele. I'm not sure if the elusive man was there for business or pleasure. I just kept his drinks coming. Bourbon, 3 fingers, neat. He had his pick of any working girl, but he took an interest in me. I suspect precisely because I wasn't for sale. We spoke for hours. It was obvious he wanted more than just good conversation, and I can't say I didn't want the same. He can be very seductive. I knew if I slept with him, I'd lose all his respect. I didn't want that to happen. I never saw him again after that night, at least not in person. The management of the liner changed sometime later. Batarians took over. Things got really bad. Some of the staff were beaten. Others just disappeared. None of us could leave. I don't know exactly why, but one day Cerberus boarded and cleaned the ship out, killed every Batarian. But they took care of the entertainers. Made sure we were all safe. Set us up with lodging until we got on our feet. I got a message from the elusive man. He'd pay for my college, and if I did well, I'd have a job waiting for me. So you see, I owe him my life in more ways than one. So, long story short, the elusive man got me out of a bad situation. Gave me an education and a job. He gave me a future. 71. Lots of uncharted star systems due to Council mass relay opening. First, it is important to understand that there are two main types of mass relays, primary and secondary. Primary relays can propel a ship thousands of light years, but only link to one other relay, its partner. Secondary relays can link to any other relay over shorter distances, only a few hundred light years. The Council refused to open a primary relay without knowing what and where it links to, as the last time they did this, it opened up the way to Rachni-controlled space, heralding the start of the Rachni Wars. This is also why the Turians attacked the humans, leading to the First Contact War, when they tried to open a primary relay. As a result, countless star systems remain undiscovered, as the primary relay would be the quickest way to discover them in a single lifetime. 72. Green Asari. The Asari Shiala was originally the blue and purple associated with other Asari. However, in the months after her exposure to the Thorian, an ancient sentient plant at least 50,000-year-old that has mind-controlling and telepathic abilities, as well as the ability to release spores to control those that inhale them, Shiala's skin pigment turned green. Unless Shiala is killed, Shepard will see that she continues to retain this green pigmentation for the remainder of her life. Given the Thorian spores, which also can't infect or breach the mind, akin to an Asari's capabilities in a way, perhaps it has fundamentally altered her DNA, or perhaps her mental ability to project the specific color visage that other Asari project. 73. Space Hamster. The space hamster in Mass Effect 3 gives Shepard the runaround before it is caught, and its info states that this small furry rodent looks up at you with what seems like a knowing smile. What does it mean by a knowing smile? Could it suggest that the hamster is intelligent or sentient? Additionally, unlike the fish, it doesn't need to be fed, a meta decision so that a furry little friend won't die, or a more telling one about its physiology. Further evidence of the uniqueness of this hamster comes after the Leviathan DLC. If Shepard chooses to take the husk head from Dr. Bryson's lab, when interacting with a space hamster, it will poke its head out, see the husk head, and scream before the husk head screams at it, and darts back into its shelter. Additionally, the space hamster is almost certainly a reference to BioWare's Baldur's Gate series, in which a party member named Minsk carried a miniature giant space hamster named Boo in his inventory. Any attempts to remove the rodent would result in an audio file being played, the same squeak that the space hamster intones when interacted with. In the Citadel DLC, Shepard tells the hamster to go for the eyes if anyone attacks it, something Minsk frequently says to Boo in Baldur's Gate. 74. Morden was a biotic. Other dialogue wherein Morden states, "Possible for me to generate a biotic field," etc., that never made it into the game, implies that Morden was originally intended to be a biotic, apparently able to maintain a biotic field powerful enough to have everyone survive during the final mission when loyal. 75. Citadel and mass relays are traps. The Citadel and mass relays were created as traps to both accelerate and draw in advanced spacefaring species that would use them as hubs for their civilization, making the harvest all the easier. As outlined by the wiki, a sentient species would develop an FTL drive, but would still be limited in its speed. By leaving a network of relays capable of instant transport across the galaxy that led to the impressive Citadel, the Reapers ensured that it would become the center of galactic civilization, as in the Protheans' time. Further, Sovereign implies that the presence of the mass relays would lead the sentient species down a predetermined route with regards to weapons and armor technology, both of which are based upon Element Zero technology for the Citadel races. As Sovereign explains, by using it, the mass relay technology, your society develops along the paths we desire. The relays also serve to reduce the amount of time it takes for galactic civilization to advance, thus shortening the time period between the Reapers' harvests. Once the sentient races have established themselves on the Citadel with the aid of the Keepers, a lone Reaper vanguard stationed within the galaxy sends a signal to the Citadel, instructing the Keepers to activate the station's hidden mass relay. This opens a path between the Citadel and dark space. The Reapers then fled through, killing the leaders of the assembled species before branching out and harvesting all spacefaring life around them. Because the Reapers first enter the galaxy at the point that they have ensured will be the center of galactic politics, information, and finance, they are able to cripple any resistance almost before the Citadel civilizations have any idea that they are under attack. The Citadel also gives them control of the relay network, cutting off star systems from each other and destroying communications. The Reapers then use their control of the Citadel and its data to begin the most sinister phase of their attack. Records allow them to track down every settled planet and attack them, harvesting their populations or enslaving them through indoctrination. Once they have harvested the galaxy, the Reapers wipe every trace of their existence from record and retreat back into dark space. 76. Shepard's name Reason. Commander Shepard is named after Alan Bartlett Shepard, Jr., the second person and the first American in space, May 5, 1961. He later commanded the Apollo 14 mission in 1971 and became the fifth person to walk on the moon. Others have added to this, suggesting that shepherd is synonymous with the traditional shepherd or person who tends sheep or a pastor over a congregation. In the refuse ending, he essentially speaks for all life, leading the sheep or populace to slaughter or otherwise dictating the fate of this intergalactic flock. The galaxy led and molded by his decisions up until this time, as well in the given cycle. 77. Legion and Jack in Cerberus Base. During the priority Cerberus headquarters, if Shepard chose to turn Legion over to Cerberus after its acquisition during the Reaper IFF mission, it will appear here as a unique enemy similar to a nemesis. Furthermore, if Shepard did not complete Grissom Academy emergency evacuation, Jack will appear here as an indoctrinated foe, specifically a phantom. 78. Leaked Mass Effect 3 script. In the leaked Mass Effect 3 script, various aspects did not make it into the game, although some did. Some points that fans pick out in particular would have been, Javik wasn't just a Prothean survivor, he was the catalyst to the Crucible. When he awakens on Eden Prime, he causes so much chaos and death that Shepard is blamed and loses their Spectre status. Kai Lang frames Shepard for the murder of a Spectre, turning Kaidan or Ashley against you. During the Thessia confrontation, you must choose to save either Liara or the Vermeer survivor. After the Citadel coup, saving the Council again, Shepard is given the title Lord Protector of the Galaxy. Zaid infiltrates Cerberus to assassinate its leaders and learn more about how the troops are being augmented with Reaper tech. The final priority Earth mission, like the ending of Mass Effect 2, would have had more interactivity and consequences. As Lord Protector, you would have to order ships and troops to protect the Crucible's approach, sacrificing troops and potentially fan-favorite characters in the process. You sink the Crucible to the Citadel as per the original ending. You learn revelations from the Star Child, then must choose to destroy, control, or become one with the Reapers. 79. Elusive man, not indoctrinated. At least potentially not until the very final scenes of Mass Effect 3. HYR laid out a detailed theory as to why the elusive man was not indoctrinated for so long. Conventional wisdom among fans is that the elusive man, henceforth Tim, was indoctrinated many years ago by the artifact he was touched by at the Arca monolith. It is also widely held that his eyes are proof of his indoctrination. Malin in Mass Effect 2 said, "Please, Professor, you wrote a paper on this. Forced behavior modification always results in mental degradation. Whether Reaper indoctrination or drugs, test subjects always lose higher cognitive function. Reapers can only hold onto their enthralled agents for so long before they lose their minds. So the question now becomes, for how long can they hold them? We have our answer in the Codex. The Mass Effect Codex says, long-term effects of the manipulation are unsustainable. Higher mental functioning decays, ultimately leaving the victim a gibbering animal. Rapid indoctrination is possible, but causes this decay in days or weeks. Slow, patient indoctrination allows the thrall to last for months or years. The events of Mass Effect Evolution take place in 2157. The events of Mass Effect 3 begin taking place in 2186, nearly 30 years later. The Codex states that slow indoctrination can allow the thrall to last for months to years. That is not really similar to saying that the thrall can last for almost 3 decades. You could argue technicalities and say that, strictly speaking, decades does not contradict years, but that is a suspect offense. How does indoctrination work anyway? Again, turning to the Mass Effect Codex, Reaper indoctrination is an insidious means of corrupting organic minds, reprogramming the brain through physical and psychological conditioning using electromagnetic fields, infrasonic and ultrasonic noise, and other subliminal methods. The Reaper's resulting control over the limbic system leaves the victim highly susceptible to its suggestions. Organics undergoing indoctrination may then complain of headaches and buzzing or ringing in their ears. As time passes, they have feelings of being watched and hallucinations of ghostly presences. Ultimately, the Reaper gains the ability to use the victim's body to amplify its signals, manifesting as alien voices in the mind. So, it fills your head up with various forms of radiation, the like of which has various adverse effects in real life. Also, if you remember the Cerberus team on the derelict Reaper, they were all complaining of various ailments while indoctrination was settling in. Again, it's kind of questionable to argue that Tim was dealing with all sorts of mind-altering forces inside his head, even if one wants to claim that the true control was simply lying dormant. And then comes perhaps the biggest problem with this theory. Simply put, since between the founding of Cerberus and the end of Mass Effect 2, Tim's actions do far, far more harm to the Reapers or their plans than good. After the Collectors successfully kill Shepard, they are then able to almost recover his body from mercenaries. This is a huge victory in the making for the Reapers, and then Tim comes and ruins everything with help from Liara. Liara steals back Shepard's body, and Tim is able to resurrect him or her. Not only does it not make sense for them to have their minion handle Shepard's body unnecessarily, and given Liara's involvement without secrecy, but the Reapers are more likely to be able to pull off this miraculous experiment, the like of which has not been accomplished by anyone in their cycle, than some unofficial human paramilitary group. The idea that the Reaper's control of Tim's mind was laying dormant also falls apart here because the Reapers had many chances to clearly see the enemy foiling their plans, Cerberus, whose leader they'd supposedly be in control of. So if they were not aware of Tim's actions before, they'd have seen it eventually, at which point they would inexplicably be standing by while their thrall ruins everything they're doing. Then, after taking away the single most prized possession from the Reapers and bringing back one of the best Reaper hunters in the galaxy, Tim proceeds to find a key to neutralizing one of their best weapons, Seeker Swarms, venture into the Omega Force system and wipe out an entire proxy army of the Reapers and the prototype for what likely would have been its crown jewel of our cycle, a Reaper capital ship from human subjects. To which Harbinger angrily rants at Shepard on the way out of their base. There is no way to justify Tim's actions during and just before Mass Effect 2 if we are to believe that he was an indoctrinated agent. The sheer amount of damage done to the Reaper's plans here far outweighs anything that they could have reasonably expected from Tim later. No, these were not merely some acceptable losses for them as they waited to use Tim for their true purpose. This also plays to a theory of a mental battle within Tim's mind where he's partly helping Shepard on his free will, but partly sabotaging him due to being slowly indoctrinated. Now, Cerberus itself is an organization dedicated largely to fighting the Reapers. Tim's manifesto for Cerberus is a subtle acknowledgement of the Reaper menace, warning of distant alien threats in the darkest corners of the galaxy that threaten humanity's very existence. Again, Tim's brief interaction with the Arca Monolith artifact showed him visions of the imminent Reaper invasion. It is probable that this vision galvanized him into taking action. A few later quotes from Tim seem to support this. In the intro to Mass Effect 2, Tim refers to Shepard's discovery of the Reaper threat to be the truth. As well, it is notable that the Reaper threat is treated as common knowledge among all Cerberus personnel we meet, even while most other groups doubt or deny it. Other fans interpret this line as meaning that Cerberus is anti-alien. I will not even try to argue that Tim is not racist, but whether he is or not is irrelevant. While I certainly believe that vigilance against rival species like the Turians is no small part of Cerberus's purpose, I do not believe they are what Tim was referring to in his manifesto. They are not an existential threat in the same vein as the Reapers. Cerberus was thus founded in large part to fighting the Reapers. Tim himself pointedly tells Shepard that he has been fighting them longer than Shepard, who'd likely have believed himself or herself to have been the first to uncover the Reaper threat, can imagine. Shepard even seems to understand Cerberus's value, saying, in an optional Paragon line, that Cerberus was supposed to be humanity's shield, and not its dagger in the back. So when does Tim fall? One would argue that Tim may fall, or won't become a Reaper pawn until after the Sanctuary data returned, at which point he judged that he could safely implant himself with Reaper tech, because what Cerberus found gave him the ability to control them. This, of course, was a fatal miscalculation that only resulted in Tim becoming indoctrinated. This leads into the next point, Shepard's showdown with Tim. In the end, Tim was still not beyond the point of doubting the Reapers. I believe this is only possible because he was not indoctrinated for a super long time. Compare this to Dr. Kenson, whom is indoctrinated when we meet her in Arrival, and any pleas to make her think better of helping them are to no avail. She's too far gone. Similarly, the Reapers talked Paul Grayson, out of killing himself in the Mass Effect novels. Again, too far gone. Tim, however, was not too far gone to redeem himself. If he were truly under such perfect, careful indoctrination, and had been for so many years, I would doubt he'd have been able to be talked into killing himself as he did. Other red herrings. Tim says, "I've been fighting the Reapers longer than you can imagine." A lot of fans interpret this as Tim reflecting on a private, personal battle with indoctrination. However, this quote can be taken at its face value and arguably makes more sense that way. Tim simply saw what was coming when he touched the artifact. Maya Brooks states he is indoctrinated. One could chalk this up as another person who got Tim wrong, whom Shepard admits in the end was not wrong to believe that control of the Reapers was an option to stop them. And just another one of many red herrings in Mass Effect 3 about Tim and Cerberus to keep the player from figuring them out too much. After all, what would be the point of all the mystery behind the writer's favorite clandestine Black Ops group if they gave you all the information like it was no secret? Early signs of implantation. In the beginning of Mass Effect 3, we see Tim on the other side of the hologram with black markings on his face. Later he tells an implanted Kai Lang that the cybernetics he was outfitted with take time to get used to. Was it Reaper tech? Sure, it's possible, but given the very limited information we have, not a strictly logical conclusion to make. Next, reckless treatment in Mass Effect 2. Another fan talking point is that Tim often throws Shepard into near-fatal danger in Mass Effect 2, as though symbolizing some internal battle in Tim's mind where he was somewhat fighting the Reapers but also at times losing. The likelier explanation is that Tim did not trust Shepard with more information, at risk of compromising the mission parameters as Tim had carefully set them. That is, Tim wanted the job done a certain way and did not want Shepard to change that. Other evidence comes from the novels. The Mass Effect novels use third-person omnipresent narration, and we are thus privy to the thoughts of many characters as a result. One such character is Paul Grayson, who was indoctrinated. The book explicitly details his indoctrinated state by making us aware of the whispers in his head. The elusive man, by contrast, is not depicted as being compromised mentally in any similar fashion. One might respond by saying that the authors did not want to give away his indoctrination to the readers, but this stands in contrast to the claim that the Mass Effect Evolutions comic he was in served to clearly tell the fanbase that Tim has long been indoctrinated. Object Row. Commander Shepard gets a very similar experience to what Tim did back at the Arkham Monolith. He is touched by a Reaper artifact that shows him visions of what's to come. He is then rendered unconscious and remains within the facility for 2 days or so before escaping. He is not indoctrinated from the experience. Indoctrination requires sustained exposure for close to a week to set in. On that note, the elusive man also was not exposed to the artifact for the continuous amount of time required for indoctrination to set in. Control and Sanctuary. A lot of fans may see the death toll or experiments of Sanctuary and conclude that this is an indoctrinated Tim doing the Reaper's work for them. On the surface, it may certainly appear that way. However, when you consider the very real breakthrough made there towards controlling and in turn stopping the Reapers, civilian casualties are no longer a big deal. At least not for the Reapers, for whom Sanctuary is less than a drop in the bucket as far as victims go. The mere possibility that Tim and company had nearly cracked the code on controlling the Reapers was so threatening to the Reapers that they diverted forces to the colony in an effort to stop it. Again, the idea that Tim was indoctrinated here becomes silly. One could argue again that Sanctuary was doing the Reapers' work for them while chasing some fool's errand. It did not, however, turn out to be a fool's errand in the end, but a viable possibility to stop the Reapers. That being the case, it does not make sense that they would urge Tim to investigate a vulnerability of theirs, especially for returns that were meager in the big scheme of things. Again, refugees on some far-off colony being huskified is not some big prize for the Reapers enough to justify potentially giving away their very downfall. How did they find Sanctuary then, if not through Tim's mind? Henry Lawson indicates that the Reaper signals from their facility tipped them off. And, once again, Shepard admits in the end that his doubts about Tim's plan were not as far-fetched or unattainable as Shepard may have initially dismissed them as. And if you dismiss the Catalyst as untrustworthy, as many fans do, Well, then there is just the plain rational argument to be made. Nobody likes to relinquish powers to others, as Zaid says about despots. Start showing them you're in charge and they're not, and they start whining like little girls. Character. Simply put, the desire to take control of the Reapers is just who Tim is. He is a maverick. Always has been. When told things are impossible, he goes and does them anyway, like bringing Shepard back from the grave. It is also notable that Tim never says in Mass Effect 2 that the goal is to destroy the Reapers, just to stop them. Some claim that the only people shown to want to control the Reapers have turned out to be indoctrinated, not normal people. One possible example that disproves this, though it is a regrettable one, Miranda's father. Yes, the man is an awful, evil man, but there is nothing to indicate he is indoctrinated. If anything, his work at Sanctuary would not have been possible if he was, because 1, his mental state would have been too weak, and 2, again, the Reapers would have known about the project through him and nipped it in the bud sooner. Also, Shepard can let Mr. Lawson walk free if Miranda is not alive to kill him. When watching Tim's Paragon or suicide death scene very carefully, you will notice that, shortly after falling dead, the lights in Tim's Reaper implants power down. However, the blue eyes from his contact with the Arkham Monolith artifact, what many fans point to as evidence of indoctrination, remains lit. 80. Morinth Banshee. Morinth can appear during the assault on Earth as a Banshee, an Ardot Yakshi that has been repurposed by the Reapers, after Shepard destroys the Hades cannon, shooting down most of the incoming Hammer forces. In combat, Morinth behaves like any other Banshee, without any special properties, and as some fans have pointed out Samara's words of, "You will regret this decision," when siding with Morinth over her, that had come back to haunt Shepard. 81. The Council knew about the Reapers. The Citadel archives in the Citadel DLC reveal that the Council were aware of what a Reaper was, with notes suggesting that the aggressor was a Reaper aided by Saren. Of course, the Council continued to deny Shepard, calling the commander crazy, even in private, should they have survived. Many fans believe that they maintained this ruse so as not to trigger a full intergalactic panic. In so doing, they failed to fully prepare for the coming threat, leaving Shepard and others to scrabble a fighting force to combat them with little to no time in the grand scheme of things. Level 6. Bottom of the Iceberg. 82. Shepard can indoctrinate. Originally speculated by YouTuber 00Meat Plays, this theory argues that Commander Shepard had his own mind-influencing ability. This would explain why Shepard was able to resist the Reaper's attempts to control him, and why he could influence so many people into following him into battle. In Mass Effect 1, the beacon on Eden Prime was instrumental in changing Shepard biologically, managing to transfer some Prothean abilities to Shepard, and giving Shepard some form of extra powers that had a lasting effect throughout the series. One of these powers may be the Paragon or Renegade abilities, which Shepard coincidentally obtained just after leaving Eden Prime, and allowed him or her to exert additional influence over others in dialogue. Besides the Reapers and Leviathans, Shepard was one of the few people that had the power to successfully change another being's mind, potentially against their will. Essentially, Paragon or Renegade points acted as charm or intimidating influence gained over their own acquired powers, with the ability to exact them over others in dialogue. The reason Shepard can't use them on certain people in certain situations is because, depending on the subject and the target's own mental will, more power or strength was needed to subvert their beliefs. YouTube commenter Ector took this one step further and theorized that the Leviathans may have been controlling Shepard, providing a means for Shepard to obtain and harness these special abilities. The Leviathans are one of the most ancient species in the galaxy and have the ability to influence lesser minds. It might be argued that, as they watched over Shepard, they managed to influence some events in the series. 83. Keepers were a harvested race. Similar to the Protheans being harvested and utilized as collectors to do the Reaper's bidding, so too have the Keepers been harvested and molded to a new design. In order to ensure that their secrets and physiology are not discovered, perhaps, is the reason that attempts to capture a keeper or take it into custody for study will cause the creature to undergo a sudden self-destruct, with a form of acid being released internally. The affected keeper literally melts into a puddle of proteins and minerals in less than a minute, preventing any serious research. Researchers also suggested and theorized that the keepers were as old as the Citadel itself. It is later revealed that the keepers, along with the Citadel, predate the Protheans. They are, in fact, of course, as previously stated, the key to the Reaper genocide, which occurs when a civilization is judged to be sufficiently advanced. According to Vigil, the keepers were likely once a race that was either created, conquered, or indoctrinated by the Reapers, possibly even the first race that they enslaved. Whatever their origins, the main purpose of the Keepers now is to maintain the Citadel in its attractive state so that sentient organic life will settle there, and support their habitation of the Citadel once they take possession of the station, as they have for countless other races throughout time. However, once an organic species has settled on the Citadel and reached the required level of technological advancement, the Reaper's current vanguard, a single Reaper left behind to monitor the situation, sends a signal to the Citadel, which in turn signals the Keepers, compelling them to activate the Citadel relay to dark space and begin the process of genocide. The Protheans, of course, succeeded in altering the Citadel's signal so that the Keepers ignored it, though too late to save the Protheans themselves from extinction at the hands of the Reapers. The Keepers have changed and evolved so they only respond to the Citadel itself. They are now no longer under Reaper control and pose no threat to anyone. 84. Lady Liberty and other stolen goods in Hawk's mansion. In Hawk's museum vault, various stolen artifacts, such as the head of the Statue of Liberty and Michelangelo's David, ancient Egyptian statue, as well as many others such as a Arachni Queen statue and other alien artifacts can be found. 85. Beings of Light Theory. The Beings of Light theory proposes that there are entities called the Beings of Light. This theory came to light due to the Mass Effect 1 Codex entry on Clinkori, a planet owned by Volus billionaire Kuman Shoal. The Codex explains that a vision of a higher being told Shoal to seek the lost scripts of Beings of Light on Clinkori, and that these entities were created at the dawn of time in order to protect organic life from synthetic machine devils. It then goes on to say that Shoal has been excavating Clinkori for 2 decades with no luck. Many fans believe that this is a direct reference to the Catalyst, which takes the form of a child shining with light. However, no one quite knows what the machine devils refer to. The Catalyst created the Reapers, and therefore it seems contradictory that they would be the machines of devils. The Reapers were designed to harvest all life in order to preserve it before it is lost to the inevitable conflict between organics and synthetics. This may indicate that all synthetic beings are machine devils, or may be a reference to an entirely new group, i.e. the Remnant. 86. Arachni could have saved Galaxy from Reapers. Assuming that Shepard previously saved the Arachni Queen, in Mass Effect 3 she will be captured by the Reapers. However, unlike other sentient beings, she is resistant or perhaps entirely immune to Reaper indoctrination, although some of her children have been indoctrinated. Dr. Anne Bryson speculates that the Queen is not actually telepathic, but uses pheromones for short-range communication. Across the vast distances of space, Arachni Queens are speculated to have used some sort of an organic quantum entanglement communicator to control their populace, similar to how the Leviathans communed with their artifacts and through them their servants. Assuming that the Queen was able to maintain such communication and control of her children and warriors, does this mean that she could produce an army immune to indoctrination, providing a powerful army to destroy them? Furthermore, had they been at their apex, could they have aided the other races, driving back or destroying the Reapers? That being said, would they have eventually turned their sights to the other races anyway? 87. Conrad Werner is a genius. As previously mentioned, Conrad Werner appears as a fanboy of Shepard's that generally makes ill-conceived or outright stupid decisions that results in him being killed, much to the amusement and ridicule of fans. However, it is revealed that he has a doctoral degree in xenoscience, and his copy of his own dissertation on dark energy, which can only be realized after utilizing all of Matriarch Milanaga's writings and other aids can be of considerable use. In essence, he is a certified genius with the self-preservation and street smarts of a mouse inflicted with the Toxoplasma gondii parasite. 88. Arya controls the Asari Counselor. Arya seems to have substantive control of the Asari Counselor, as, when she is halted by a C-Sec immigration officer, this exchange occurs. So, you admit you and your thugs are here illegally. Yes, and it only took C-Sec 3 weeks to figure it out. I don't care who you are. You're required to go through processing like all other refugees. Come with me. I don't think so. Shirk, get me the Asari Counselor. After a moment, a hologram of Counselor Orisa, or the other Counselor Tevos, appears. Arya, to what do I have the pleasure? I'm being asked to submit to immigration processing. I see. The hologram then reaches out of frame and appears to manipulate some unseen controls. And now you have been processed. Is there anything else? Nothing. Thank you. Anytime. The dialogue is mildly different if Tevos is the Asari Counselor instead of Orisa, but there is no substantial change in outcome. It is also applied that Arya's daughter, Lyselle, is by Tevos. But why still do both Asari Counselors aid her? Is it blackmail, the threat of violence by her gangs, or something more? 89. Prothean Beacon Effects. Prothean beacons are designed to interact directly with the flesh of Protheans. The Prothean people can acutely sense information from their surroundings by touch, even genetic data or very faint odors or emotions. Commander Javik demonstrated this when he sensed Commander Shepard's emotional state and picked up on Grunt's traces in the cargo hold. Protheans could easily store and read information in their beacons by touch, inputting and reading vast amounts of ultra-precise, highly detailed data with ease. As a result, without the cipher, all Shepard saw was a mixed-up conglomeration of visuals, sounds, and meanings that tormented his mind and recurred in nightmares. There are those that, as previously stated, believe that Shepard gained some powers or form of Prothean DNA or gene alteration by his contact with the beacon. As a result, this has led to some of his abilities, persuasion capabilities, and the like. 90. Spectres are poorly funded. While the Normandy was gifted to Shepard by the Alliance, most of the missions and their equipment come out of the pocket of Spectres, not from the Council that gave them their status. Mordin Solus states that during his service with the STG, they didn't have to buy their own weapons, a joke referring to Shepard having to purchase the squad's equipment with personal funds. Some believe that the Council doesn't fund Spectres personally as, should they run afoul or something or go too far in an issue, they have some leeway to preserve or distance themselves from the Spectre, i.e. we may have given them some power, but we didn't give them the materials or weapons to do what they did. On the other hand, why would the Council not properly fund Spectres, extremely talented individuals who have proven that they can get results where others could not? It would still make more sense that they would want them to be at their best. 91. Metagel works on Geth. As derived from the games and official sources, Metagel is an all-purpose medicinal salve combining an anesthetic and clotting agent used by paramedics, EMTs, and military personnel produced by the Sirta Foundation. It heals various wounds and ailments, instantly sealing injuries against infection and allowing for rapid healing by having the gel grip tight to flesh until subjected to a frequency of ultrasound. It is sealable against liquids, most notably blood, as well as contaminants and gases. Given its ability to interact with blood and mend injuries, it is surprising at first that it also works on the Geth and Mech team members. Thus, it is capable of repairing entirely synthetic or artificial platforms. While technically its properties make it illegal under genetic modification laws, in this case the restriction is ignored because of the product's beneficial properties. Former Cerberus operative Maya Brooks claims that overdosing on the substance may cause side effects that include alterations of the user's perceptions and mood. Given its ability to replicate or hide by targeting an individual's damaged cells for reconstruction, what are the implications of this repurposing or mimicking of DNA and cells, and how might it advance? 92. Rachni were caused by Reapers. There are various theories as to what caused the Rachni to attack, other than the need to feed or destroy. It is postulated that another party, possibly the Reapers, manipulated the Rachni into starting the Rachni Wars. When confronting the Rachni Queen on Noveria, she will explain to Commander Shepard that she was unaware of why the Rachni went to war against the galaxy. While in her egg, the Queen heard only the sounds of oily shadows and a tone from space that hushed one voice after another, and forced the singers to resonate with its own sour yellow note. If Shepard allowed the Queen to live and escape from the Peak 15 facility, an Asari acting in service to the Rachni can be found on Ilium, who says that the Rachni are not an inherently hostile race. Shepard can question her on what might have caused the Rachni to attack upon their discovery by the Citadel races, and Shepard can suggest mind control. The Asari is uncertain, but the Rachni Queen's description of how her race was forced to resonate with a sour note is reminiscent of Reaper indoctrination. But why make them fight at all? Some believe that this was just an earlier attempt at breaching the Citadel without Saren, accelerating the plans for the harvest, or they were simply used to sow chaos, destabilizing or weakening their military. An additional theory suggests that the Reapers were not ready to reveal themselves, meaning they couldn't handle the threat of any Rachni who had survived their previous cycle coming in friendly contact with other races in the galaxy, since Rachni retain genetic memory spanning hundreds of thousands of years. Thus, instigating a war between the two was the best option. Dr. Garrett Bryson speculated that the mythical Leviathan was responsible instead, and may have been trying to create an army to confront the Reapers. Since the Reapers were in dark space at the time of the Rachni Wars, and the ancient Rachni bore no traces of the cybernetic augmentation that the Reapers utilized to convert organics into troops, Bryson believed that they could not have been responsible. Bryson attempted to use the activity patterns of the ancient Rachni to track possible Leviathan artifact sites, but this parameter turned out to be irrelevant to the search, and Bryson's theory remains unconfirmed. 93. Secret Turian Dancing. During Thane's loyalty mission in Mass Effect 2, a dancing Turian can easily be missed and can be seen joining in on the dance floor. 94. Keeper 20. This particular keeper seems significant enough to be in the Shadow Broker's vid collection. It is seen staring into the screen as it goes in and out of static. Some believe this to be a riff outside of the lore, being a reference to a bug that would happen during the Scan the Keeper side quest in Mass Effect 1, where one of the keepers, out of 20, would bug outside of the map, making it impossible to scan. Thus, even the Shadow Broker loses connection when this keeper warps, leaving it as an anomaly. 95. Cut ability to save both on Vermeer. There are cut audio files between Shepard, Ashley, and Kaidan after saving both teammates, with Ashley commenting, "Why didn't you just leave one of us behind?" as it put the mission in jeopardy and potentially leads to Shepard being court-martialed. 96. Turians can't swim. According to Garrus, the entire species of Turians as a whole can't swim very well, normally resulting in flailing and drowning, because their bodies are literally too dense. 97. Prothean era races. While primitive ancestors to the Asari and many galactic races existed, other advanced races lived and were wiped out like the Protheans, such as the Densoran, that attempted to pacify the Reapers by sacrificing their children. The Orivores that attacked the Asari homeworld of Thessia and were repelled by the Protheans. The previously mentioned Zatil and Za. Other races mentioned by Javik were the Didaker, the aggressive Didaker wiped out the Sinril, the Endoromi, which conquered the Vandamar, the Sinril, which claimed to have found the path to eternal peace, but were wiped out by the Didaker, and the Vandamar, which were conquered by the Endoromi. Level 7. Under the Iceberg. 98. Probing Uranus. There are two main lines of dialogue when launching probes on Uranus, or Uranus in this case, and Edie sarcastically says, "Really, Commander?" Doing so a second time elicits a sarcastic, probing Uranus. The subtext isn't the hardest to pick up on here. 99. Humans are the apex race. Leviathans claim and are said to be the apex race. It is also known that the Reapers specifically choose one sentient race for their main Reapers, while others are harvested for their destroyers. As they attempted to make a human Reaper, this suggests that the apex race from this cycle and the main cores of these new Reapers would be humanoid. Despite Leviathans regarding themselves as the first and only apex race, it is still Shepherd and humanity that has the potential of breaking the cycle. 100. Dragon Age Ogre in Hawk's Museum. A Dragon Age Ogre can be found in Hawk's Museum. As previously covered in the Dragon Age Iceberg, both Mass Effect and Dragon Age potentially take place within the same universe. In the Mass Effect 2 DLC, Kasumi, Stolen Memory, there is a Darkspawn Ogre statue in Donovan Hawk's vault. Some fans argue that Hawk is interested in preserving not only art, but also pieces depicting extinct species. In Dragon Age Inquisition, there are several mounted Krogan heads scattered across the game. This may indicate that Krogan had attempted to land on Dragon Age's planet, Thetis, and scout the area, but were killed and mounted as trophies due to their oddity. Thetis' moon is quite large. In fact, it is so large that some believe it to be a planet. There is a planet in Mass Effect that looks similar to the moon of Thetis. It is called Clindagan and has a moon called Pressup, which may be Thetis. The Mass Effect 1 Codex explains that Pressup is barren and consists of jagged ridges due to an ancient disaster, which might be a reference to the events of Dragon Age Inquisition. While other fans see these as merely Easter eggs, some believe that there is enough evidence to at least consider this a theory. Additionally, could the races of Dragon Age have been advanced enough that they, too, were eventually harvested by the Reapers? Others posit that the Fade was merely a mental manifestation or otherwise allowing for their linkage to this plane where all could meet, like a hive mind or supercomputer akin to the Geth or Reapers communicating with one another all at once. While biotics use element 0, could some form of this have been present in the people of Thetis' diet or in the Earth in some alternate form? The exposure to individuals somehow passing down through the generations. This could manifest as some of the powers we see magic users wield. 101. Mass Effect 1 Vision of Human Ancestors on Uncharted Planet. Some believe that human ancestors were seen in the Mass Effect 1 visions on an uncharted planet, suggesting that either part of their population was uprooted and reseeded in the Sol system by unknown or Prothean means, or that a delegation of advanced humans survived and landed on Earth, losing much of their technology. Such theories are generally fairly vague in nature and rife with speculation. 102. Shepard has an insane liver. In Mass Effect 2, there is a sequence in which Shepard imbibes some of the strongest alcoholic beverages on offer at the bar. After downing a few particularly strong drinks, he is served Batarian ale, which the bartender remarks that he's never seen anyone stay on their feet after drinking. Shepard does. Finally, Shepard downs a glass of Rinkol, a Krogan alcohol that Grunt had mentioned hits aliens like ground glass, and the bartender jokes will make Shepard set off radiological alarms. Other notes signify that it is highly acidic, capable of melting through machinery, and Grunt narrates to Shepard that he in fact used it as a Molotov cocktail, merely by throwing a regular bottle at a C-Sec air car. While Shepard does black out after a moment, he wakes up surrounded by his teammates seemingly no worse for wear in a bathroom. Many speculate that the commander should have needed medical attention or it should have killed him, especially given how much was consumed in such a short time frame. Others still claim that Shepard either has the strongest human liver in the galaxy or attained some form of biological boon to organic matter and functions from the Prothean relic. 103. Every cycle has a Shepard. When speaking with a Prothean VI, the aspect of a continuous, repeating cycle is put forth and generally accepted as fact. Societies peak in evolution and dissolve. The Reapers attack, and so much more happens in this pattern. As a result, some theorize that a shepherd-like figure is present in every cycle as a part of this pattern. Whether this figure is a legendary leader or any given cycle's events and trials serve as a breeding ground for the development of one is unclear. As the elusive man went to such great pains to revive Shepard, who he believed to be integral to this cycle, or at least humanity's survival, recreating the commander in every conceivable way possible was imperative so that the essence was the same. As a result, some additionally believe that Javik was his cycle Shepard, but he ultimately failed. 104. Shifty Cow. The shifty-looking cow is a space cow found on the planet of Ontarum and the Newton system of the Kepler Verge. It roams near the southwestern corner of the operational area, near a gold deposit. An otherwise normal member of the species, talking to it also does nothing. However, on seeing Commander Shepard, it starts following them around. On reaching a close enough distance, it steals the Spectre's credits slowly. As long as Shepard doesn't turn around to face it, the cow continues its activities, whether it's stalking Shepard or siphoning their money, only moving when the commander is not looking at it. The cow can be killed with a single shot, but will disappear and respawn in a few moments. Doing so does not recover any lost credits, however. According to a post by lead technical designer Dusty Everman on the official Mass Effect forums, the Shifty Cow Easter egg's nature is as follows. I love the history of the Shifty Cow Easter egg. When the character artist designed the space cow with 2 extra arms, Preston, our lead designer, was a little creeped out. His comment was, "You can't trust any animal that can milk itself. Those extra little hands look so grabby." So Preston came up with the idea of Shifty Cow. Turn your back on him, and those creepy little hands are going to go to work. Kiss those credits goodbye. Thus, this cow has the power to siphon off credits from Shepard. But for what purpose? It seems isolated here. So what could it spend them on, or is it somehow able to convert them into something else? 105. Cut Anderson Conversation. Originally, Anderson's final conversation with Shepard was meant to be longer, being cut to reduce the sluggishness in the final scenes, as supposedly directed by Casey Hudson. Others say it was cut as Anderson saying he never had a family and never got to be a father himself would contradict lore of his ex-wife and adult son. While it's only a few lines in the grand scheme of things, some fans still miss their inclusion. Some lines definitely hit home for some fans, as Anderson asked Shepard if he or she would want a family and kids, saying their children would be proud of them, with Shepard stating that, "I don't know about that. Not everything I've done is something I'm proud of." And Anderson responds, "I'm proud of you." 106. Dark Energy Theory and Rewritten Ending. As commented upon by Drew Karpyshyn, a lead writer for the first 2 Mass Effect games and some books, the subtext of Tali's loyalty mission in Mass Effect 2 was about dark energy causing the unnatural speed at which Haystrom's main star or sun was dying. The premise was such that the Mass Effect, the very thing that makes everything in the universe work as we understand it, is actually killing it. Galactic civilization's use of Mass Effect technology was effectively causing a buildup of dark energy. Thus, the Reapers were supposed to prevent the buildup from reaching catastrophic levels. The Reapers clean up every 50,000 or so years to allow the universe time to recuperate and prevent its destruction, hoping with each cycle that there might be a solution found in order to halt the dark energy from Element Zero and Mass Effect fields killing the universe. Additionally, humans were the last best chance at salvation because of their genetic diversity. The original final choice was supposedly between sacrificing humanity or destroying the Reapers. Again, 3 options remained in the end. Humanity lives and the Reapers die, the galaxy falls into infighting and eventually fails as dark energy builds up and starts killing stars, or humanity is martyred to create a super Reaper that gives everyone else a chance. 107. How Humans Became Biotics. After a series of starship accidents in the 2150s that dispersed Element Zero over populated areas, the first human biotics were born. By the time these children were teenagers, the Alliance had made contact with the Citadel and learned of the effects of in utero Element Zero or EZO exposure. A company called Kinetics Industries was founded to track down exposed individuals and develop implants for humans. There are rumors that, after the link between EZO and biotics was discovered, some human colonies were deliberately exposed to dust form Element Zero to create more biotic children. 108. Cerberus are or were good. There is a saying that goes, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions," and Cerberus's modus operandi of "the ends justify the means" seems to line up with this fact. That being said, many boons to Shepard, including his or her life, are owed to Cerberus. Why? Because the elusive man believed that Shepard was the key to stop the Reapers and preserve life, or at least humanity. Cerberus also sent Miranda Lawson to assist Jacob Taylor in an investigation into a potential Batarian terrorist attack, and when the pair discovered a plot to assassinate the Citadel Council using a bioweapon, they stopped the attack, preserving even an alien galactic council and preventing mayhem. And while they may be extremists, some argue that, at least in Mass Effect 2, they cared more than the Council or other factions about the Reapers and Collector attacks, aiding Shepard in setting the commander up for success. 109. Galaxy population makes no sense according to Mass Effect sources. Populations are given for most inhabited areas, such as the Citadel, although the numbers seem quite low. For example, the Citadel, the seat of the Galactic Empire, is home to a mere 13.2 million people, not including the permanent keepers. To put this in perspective, the population of New York City in 2022 is approximately 8.4 million, and Tokyo's is 35.2 million. Given the large swatches of skyscrapers seen on the Citadel in addition to the wards, one would think the population, tourists, and passerbys notwithstanding, would be far higher. Going to estimates of alien populations when compared to Earth, the Earth's current population is over 7 billion, and in the Mass Effect universe, it is over 11 billion. The Asari homeworld of Thessia contains a paltry 5.5 billion, and all others seem to have but a fraction when compared to humans, save for the Solarians with 10.3 billion on their home planet of Serkesh. Some theorize that these numbers are altogether too small, as significant populations are not normally documented outside of these homeworlds, and overall space stations and colonies don't make significant contributions to these numbers. With expansion possible, why are so few of these comparable species around? Some believe that, although the Krogan fought in the Rachni Wars, many other races lost countless numbers to Rachni, and then the Krogan themselves before the Rebellion and the Genophage, although solid proof is so far unobtainable. 110. Legion does the robot. In Mass Effect 2, when observed at his AI core, Legion may be seen beatboxing and dancing in a style known as the robot. Other than a meta Easter egg, it would be interesting to learn the impetus behind this. 111. Unasanan and other pre-Prothean races. Prior to the Prometheans, a number of races existed in the previous cycle. Unasanan, inhabiting Ilos at some point in its ruins providing Protheans with the knowledge to develop Mass Effect technology. Thoihan, who warred with the Unasanan and whose starships litter a disputed planet. Angana. Arthen, a vast civilization with technology found to be equivalent to the current best of the Galactic Citadel, and the Zioff, that built elaborate crypts on the surface of the planet Armeni. 112. Hidden Rachni songs. In Mass Effect 1, you can only hear these songs after Noveria, where you encounter the Rachni, and, as the Rachni are stated to be able to communicate with certain advancements countless light years away, it is believed that these songs are reaching these various points across the planets in the hopes that other Rachni, or another queen, has survived, assuming the first one did. They are focused on rebuilding their race and staying out of sight of the other races, at least for now. So this could also be a point at which they are searching for a new home. These songs, commonly associated with Rachni, can be heard near the wreckage where the Asari writings are found on Altahay, at the abandoned mining camp on Nepmos, at the abandoned camp on Nodacrux, near the landing zone on Rayangri, near the downed recon probe on Elatania, on the hill near the crashed CCCP Luna 23 on Luna, where it should be impossible for any Rachni to be present, and on the hill to the west of the Thresher Maw and crash probe on Zawin. 113. Harbinger is the first Reaper and created from Leviathan. Before the Reapers came to be, the galaxy was under the thrall of a race known as Leviathans. They created an intelligence to solve the problems of organics and synthetics killing each other. However, this intelligence turned on them, slaughtering most of their kind and processing others into the very first true Reaper, Harbinger. Harbinger's form, that of the Leviathans themselves, became the template for subsequent Reapers harvested from the galaxy's races on cyclical purges over the next million years. 114. Shepard is a mass murderer. As the commander has killed Reapers, which are the collections of millions of sentient minds, he has effectively killed millions upon millions of trapped or assimilated souls, especially if he chooses the destroy ending. Additionally, owing to the destruction of the Bahak system by Commander Shepard's actions and arrival, sending an asteroid into the Alpha Relay that tears it apart and creates an explosion akin to a supernova that easily kills the more than 300,000 Batarian colonists in the system and countless more, really makes Shepard a mass murderer. Level 8. The Abyss. 115. How do Elcor use computers? The Elcor from Mass Effect are a large, lumbering species with incredible strength that moves slowly as a result of their evolution on their high-gravity homeworld. We know that the lips of an Elcor are strong enough to hold small objects, but this doesn't explain how the Elcor do things such as operate machinery or input information to a computer, or even pilot spacecraft. They have not demonstrated psychic or biotic abilities in lore, and their large, wide legs aren't suited for performing most tasks that dexterous species such as humans, Solarians, or Asari can. Perhaps they merely build their controls to suit their physiology. For example, instead of tiny keyboards and control yokes made for human fingers, they have giant control switches built into the floors of their ships. They also have pressure-sensitive pads and tilting pedals for finer control when piloting. All that being said, some technology and creations do require deft movements and small parts. How can their giant fumbling fingers accomplish this? We know that their species wasn't simply uplifted by more dexterous races, as they had made their first attempts into space travel by the time the Asari found them, meaning that they created intricate technology on their own. 116. Keepers were enslaved by Leviathans. As the Leviathans created the Citadel and, as an aquatic species, made use of land-based thralls, and it is noted that they most likely evolved on a planet with one other sapient species, which many theorize to be keepers. The first thralls allowed for the building of such technologies that sparked the exploration the Leviathans needed, and, so it seems, were the first creatures indoctrinated by the Reapers, made in the Leviathan's image, who have shown that they are already weak to indoctrination like mind control powers, and the collective Reaper psyche may see Keeper species as a similar asset. Now, the Keeper's inclusion upon the Citadel, working on the technology their masters cannot, remains the same regardless of who rules it, the Reapers or the Leviathans. 117. The biotic god is actually a biotic. Niftu Cal, a Volus who claims to be a biotic god, throwing a weak warp at the mercenaries if Shepard encourages him to fight them, is generally regarded as a joke. The fact that he is impaired by the drugs the Asari injected into him is perhaps why his powers and balance are so poor. Like the Quarians, Volus are rarely seen outside of their suits and rarely have biotics amongst their numbers. However, those that do are said to demonstrate impressive biotic powers despite their diminutive size. And perhaps Niftu Cal would have been a more serious threat given he was in full possession of his mental and physical faculties. 118. Mass Effect 1 and 2 were possibly pointless and only delayed the attack. This theory suggests that all of the events of Mass Effect 1 and 2 were ultimately pointless, as they did not stop the Reapers but merely delayed the inevitable. If so, would that mean that Shepard would have still made it to the Star Child and been able to make the decision? Or was the delay entirely necessary to learn and gather forces together, giving Shepard and the others a fighting chance to reach the catalyst in the first place? 119. Citadel DLC is Purgatory. The Purgatory theory believes that Commander Shepard had died at the end of Mass Effect 3, and the Mass Effect 3 DLC Citadel takes place in the afterlife. Citadel is a tribute DLC, offering up everything fans loved about the series. It provides Shepard with a new domicile, some casino drama, and the chance to hang out with all of his old companions again. Jordan Rivas came up with this theory based on dialogue from Citadel with Avina, the virtual intelligence unit. In the DLC, Shepard can once again ask Avina about information on different locations in the Citadel. However, when you bring up Purgatory, the Citadel's nightclub, Avina will begin defining Purgatory, a Catholic concept about a place between heaven and hell. This theory argues that it cannot be merely coincidence that the writers of the DLC chose to make this reference, and in fact the idea of the Citadel being a temporary purgatory for Shepard makes sense. Shepard has a strong connection with the Citadel, it being where he began forming close alliances and started his journey, and so too, it is now where he makes peace with his death and all that he has done for the galaxy. 120. Mass Effect Space Cigarettes. Cigarettes can be found throughout the games, such as with the Elusive Man, a Batarian on Job, Captain Chafka when you go to recruit Garrus, and an Elcor in a shop on Omega has a cigar sticking out of his mouth. In-universe, cancer and, presumably, the negative effects of smoking have been cured, so there is no inherent health risk to the act any longer. 121. Virtual Aliens. An unnamed race of virtual aliens are a race of some 1 billion individuals who downloaded their minds into a virtual world aboard a starship long ago to avoid the destruction of their civilization. As of 2185 CE, the virtual aliens have established diplomatic contact with the Citadel Council in order to secure a new power source for the systems that maintain their virtual world. To facilitate communication with the Citadel Council, the virtual aliens show that they are capable of swapping consciousnesses with other sentient beings and can control their bodies. Approximately 8,000 years ago, the virtual aliens faced an imminent crisis. Their homeworld star was about to go supernova. To survive, the virtual aliens built a starship equipped with a network of supercomputers. 1 billion virtual aliens transferred their consciousness into the supercomputers, which contained an entire virtual world for them to inhabit for the duration of the crisis. With a purpose-built AI piloting the ship and maintaining the virtual world, the virtual aliens departed their home and began a millennia-long sojourn across the galaxy. 122. What did Shepard see after Mass Effect 2 death? A cut conversation between Shepard and Ashley discusses what Shepard did or didn't see after his death, and I've highlighted a few sections. You were dead, weren't you? I mean, really dead, right? Well, I heard. I couldn't say for sure, but I think so. What did you see? Bright light? Dark tunnel? Anything? That's a big question, Ash. I'm not sure the answer will be what you're looking for. It is what it is, Shepard. There's no right or wrong. I remember floating after an explosion in the Normandy pushed me out into space. There was a sharp pain in my chest. I couldn't breathe, but I could feel air being leached from my lungs. I struggled, tried to stop air from leaking, all pointless. But it doesn't take long before it was blackness. Did you see anything? I did see a light. Really? It was the Cerberus lab, Ash. Nothing else. I heard voices, muffled for a bit. Next time I woke up, I had to escape the facility. So you don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. Ash, I don't know if I died and came back or simply died. What do you mean? I don't know if I'm the Shepard you knew or some incomplete copy. I don't know. All that being said, this could indicate that there is no real afterlife or higher plane that one goes to when they die, or that Shepard is not the same consciousness as he went through a form of death wherein perhaps his ultimate soul was not sent back or recovered, and that aspect of the commander did go on to the afterlife, leaving his supposed consciousness or aspects or clone of himself behind. 123. Marauder Shields was a good guy. Marauder Shields is an inside joke among the community. At the end of Mass Effect 3, when Shepard is walking to the beam, a random marauder jumps out of nowhere. This is Marauder Shields. The joke goes that he knew about the horrible ending and was trying to save you from your own disappointment, which is why he attacked you. 124. Leviathan will take over the galaxy. It's canon that the Leviathans were once the apex life form, employing all other races as their thralls, making them pay tribute. Their enemy is obviously the Reapers, who were originally created by the intelligence to harvest life forms, although it betrayed them and started with theirs. But now, with the Reapers gone, what can stop the Leviathans from regaining their position as the apex life form? They destroyed a Reaper with a simple thought, transmitted of course through several orbs, and state that your own species could be destroyed with a single thought. Assuming they indeed take over the galaxy after the defeat of the Reapers, particularly from the destroy option, what would living in the galaxy be like then? And will they recruit Shepard to be their agent? The Leviathans supposedly built the mass relays so that they may be able to control or subvert them. However, they are a shadow of their former selves and without the sprawling empire they once commanded. Depending on the ending, would they see comradeship or any amount of worth in the other races, or simply see them as future thralls to begin their empire anew, now cognizant of the threat such a powerful intelligence could be, and wary to not make the same mistake that led to the Reapers once again. 125. Organic Quantum Entanglement Communications. The Quantum Entanglement Communicators, QEC, are incredibly powerful and useful pieces of technology. When a pair of quantum entangled particles is separated, a change to one particle will affect the other instantaneously, wherever it lies in the universe. QECs exploit this effect to transmit binary data any distance. Of course, two pairs of entangled particles are necessary for transmission and reception. It allows instantaneous communication over any distance without reliance on the network of comm buoys. Nothing short of falling into a black hole would disrupt the signal. Second, quantum communications cannot be intercepted between source and destination, allowing no wiretaps. This intergalactic communication is incredible. However, the Artava project, headed by the Asari, may develop past this and incorporate Geth-originated programming models and technologies. Some believe that Sovereign was able to use QECs to contact the other Reapers, which is why they are alerted to begin the harvest. The use of the Citadel was merely meant to expedite this process physically, bringing the other Reapers to the system, not as a form of communication. As a semi-organic construct, the capabilities of harnessing such feats by any organic could be replicated eventually by other organics or semi-organics. Specifically, the Rachni, which already seemed to harness this organic form of this communication and seemed to communicate or project their songs, as previously mentioned, across seemingly insurmountable distances. Should they rise to power once more, who's to say they can't coordinate instantaneously an intergalactic war?
I should go. 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 I should go.